Good evening. This is the call to order of the regular Board of Aldermen meeting at the Salado Municipal Building located at 301 North Stagecoach Road, Salado, Texas. The date is June 5th, 2025. It is 6:30 p.m. Mr. De La Rosa, please call the roll.
Mayor, you have a quorum. All members are present.
Thank you, sir. As we begin this Board of Aldermen meeting, let us take a moment to reflect on our shared commitment to serve the diverse community of the Village of Salado. We invite all present, regardless of faith, belief, or philosophy, to join us in the spirit of unity, respect, and compassion. May our deliberations be guided by wisdom, our decisions rooted in fairness, and our actions driven by the common good. Whether you find inspiration in a higher power, the wonders of humanity, or the wonders of nature, let us work together to build a culture where every voice is heard and every individual is valued. Let's take a moment, please. Thank you. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you. Item 1, public comments. The Board of Aldermen welcomes comments from citizens on issues and items of concern not on the agenda. Those wishing to speak must sign in before the meeting begins and observe a 5-minute time limit when addressing the board. Speakers will have one opportunity to speak during this time period. Speakers desiring to speak on an agenda item will be allowed to speak when the agenda item is called. Inquiries about matters not listed on the agenda will either be directed to staff or placed on a future agenda for Alderman consideration. Number 1, Ms. Darlene Walsh.
Good evening, Alderman, and congratulations to all of you new folks. And we're looking forward to a wonderful year. My name's Darlene Walsh. I live at 1001 Mill Creek Drive, Salado. And I just wanted to make note of an important date coming up. On June 14th, the U.S. Army will celebrate 250th anniversary, marking a significant milestone in American military history. A large military parade in Washington, D.C. is planned to commemorate this occasion. This day also coincides with Flag Day. It's a national holiday in the United States where Americans celebrate the American flag and its significance. And I know a number of you on the board are ex-military, and in appreciation of your service as well as my husband's service, and he spent 22 years of his life, partly as a Marine and partly, and most of the time as in the Army, and retired after 22 years. But I would like to read to you the following. It's the soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who has given us the freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose body is draped in the flag, who allows the protester to burn the flag. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and the Coast Guard, God bless the American soldier of the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Mr. James Kirby.
Mayor, Alderman, my name is James Kirby. Manny thought it would be a good idea.
Mr. Kirby, can you pull that microphone up, please? Thank you.
Manny thought it would be a good idea if I just took a minute just to introduce myself to the new members. And so that's all I'm here to do is is first of all, congratulations also, and wanted to introduce myself and my project, Mustang Springs. And over the next several weeks, we'll be in front of you as members to go through the process and progress of our project. I also wanted to invite, whether it be one or more than one, at any point in time, my contact information is with Manny or the mayor to call me if you want any kind of updates on what's going on or any tours. You know, we're happy to end up sponsoring any tours on the site. We've got plenty of hard hats and I would encourage that. We could, you guys can actually see the progress that we're making out there on our project. And that's all I really had.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kirby. Ms. Turnbow, you want to speak now, or you want to wait until that? Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
Linda Reynolds, 1110 Mill Creek Drive. I just wanted to take a moment and thank the courage of Alderman McDonald, Alderman Hurst, Mayor Henry, Village Manager Joe LaRosa for going ahead and removing some exemptions that will affect me and everybody in the village who owns property as a resident. I would like to point out that although we are in trouble financially in general, the state of Texas has billions of dollars. They're giving it to private schools, they're giving it to teachers, they're giving it all over the place. And they're giving it to all of us who own residents in the village. If we vote in November for the resolution for homestead exemption, they've moved it from $100,000 to $140,000 for every homestead, which is wonderful. And then for those of us who are older on fixed incomes, in theory, they're going up to $200,000. We will get the vote for that in November. I think, as it happened before, Bell County is likely to send us our tax bill in the fall, and whatever it is, they will tell us how much we get off as exemptions, and they will tell us, but if you don't go vote for it, they'll give us another bill. So be sure and get out and vote in November for your tax exemptions the state of Texas has given us with their billions of oil dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boynton?
Jim Boynton, 3565 FM 2843, Salado. One of the things that she just alluded to is they're trying to cut the taxes again, which is good for a lot of things. Before we ever got in the financial jam that we're in as a city, we were cutting taxes without any money to spend on what we had projected. We also had people that were denying building permits, hookups to the sewer to certain people, and other businesses or individuals basically going unchecked in this town. And it's been condoned and gone on for years. The other day I noticed that our state representative, Brad Buckley, who lives down the road from me, sent y'all a letter talking about he wanted to exempt businesses from whatever fee that was going to be charged for, you know, out-of-town people coming in and selling on the weekend or whatever. That's a normal fee for other places. But I was very glad to see him send y'all a letter and say he wants y'all to exempt businesses that have been pretty well been able to do a lot of things they want to on the rest of the taxpayers' backs. Where the problem lies is I've been in to see him when I was denied being able to hook up to the sewer that's supposed to be running in front of my house. I was denied him calling on my behalf. But I will tell you, he told me at the time that he does not get involved in politics in the city, but it looks like now he has. So what I'm going to encourage you guys to do is let's have an open meeting and bring all these open records requests that have been had for years showing people that didn't comply, that didn't have building permits, that failed inspections and immediately were approved, while others who were trying to abide by the building code were checked at every corner. Every corner. They would drag out everything. I've been a prime example of that. Now that he's put his hat in the ring to help, let's get in there and get him in here and let's all look at it. Let's see what's going on. Let's see all these permits that were falsified or people flunking an inspection and then turning around and having it okayed by the mayor a few hours later. It's gone on for years. We can't keep going this way. They always say, if you see something, say something. Y'all are probably tired of hearing from me because I've seen a lot and I've said a lot about it, but it seems to fall on deaf ears. If we've got new blood here, maybe we all ought to get to looking at those open records requests and let's look and see what went on and why we're out of money and why whenever we cut our taxes, the taxes were going down, the building materials for our roads were going up, nothing was getting done. It looks like to me a lot of things that have gone on have been corrupt and it's been swept under the rug. Now's the time to get with our state representative and get him over here and let's look. Just my neighbor wanted me to throw something out to you guys. He went and protested his taxes. He lives right next door to the apartments. The townhomes this year were appraised as slabs only. They've had buildings on top of those slabs for months. They came to my house when I was building it about 2 years ago, January 2nd, and walked in under a scaffold and trying to inspect to see how they could charge me more money. But yet, a huge project like that, we have a tax appraiser not appraising it, and stuff like that cost our city dearly, lots of money. Not getting a building permit for months cost me money. It cost the citizens lots of money because I'm not the only guy. I've been in meetings where they said there will never be a McDonald's in this town. Well, folks, they came, they abide by the rules, they're paying taxes. That's a crappy outlook on things. You got somebody coming in and willing to abide by the rules and build a nice place, and we hold them up. That's just unconscionable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments? Oh, okay. Item 2, consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of May 8, 2025 special Board of Aldermen meeting, and B, approval of the minutes of May 15, 2025 regular Board of Aldermen meeting. We'll go down the line here. Alderman Sandor, you have any questions about items A or B? Alderman Lassiter?
No.
Alderman Hurst?
No questions.
Alderman Dutch?
No questions.
Alderman McDonald?
No questions, Mayor.
Any public comments on the consent agenda? Okay, none? I'll open the floor for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Motion made by Alderman Hurst to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman McDonald. Any further discussion? No?
Question.
Question called by Alderman Hurst. All in favor of approving consent agenda items A and B as presented, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? That carries 5-0, Mr. De La Rosa. Item 3, discuss and consider possible action regarding any item removed from the consent agenda. There are none. Item 4, Village Administrator's Report. Mr. De La Rosa.
Okay, yeah, Mayor, do you want to start this TCQ permit that we
Sure.
applied for?
So we started looking around and seeing some of these brush with that storm that came through and going through and doing assessments and seeing that there are some people that maybe don't have the ability don't have the resources and the equipment to get rid of some of these storm debris that's around there. So I started kind of talking to some folks and reached out to some businesses and reached out to actually Sanctuary and asked could we have permission to use their property where Wildfire Arena used to be and place it out there, and we'll ultimately burn it. We were given permission to use that for 30 days. And in the fastest turnaround that I have seen from any sort of state agency, got a permit within about 4 hours. So we submitted the application, got it done. I have to give credit to Judge Blackburn and Mr. Reinhardt with the Bell County Emergency Management Coordinator's Office, and they were very helpful in getting that taken care of. So we have a drop-off location at Wildfire Arena for residents only. I did open it up to all residents of the 76571 zip code because I do believe in taking care of our neighbors, but are very adamant that we are not allowing contractors to go out there and dump. And today we did find that happening for the first time, and we cited that individual for illegal dumping. And the reason being is I don't want, I'll say, for example, Alderman Dunch, if I come in and bid this and say, well, I'll remove it too for $400, knowing that I'm going to go dump it for free. So I put that little bit in there to keep people from taking advantage of people. So it's being used. I go out there 2 or 3 times a day to check on it to make sure people are not dumping tires and all that kind of thing out there. So it's being used. And then tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., also Saturday at 7 a.m., I'll be out there with a group of volunteers. I've only got 2 people signed up to this point. So if anybody sitting here or anybody on listening in or watching on YouTube wants to help get rid of some of this debris, we're going to start at 7 a.m. tomorrow and 7 a.m. Saturday. And I've got a list of people who have chimed in and asked us to come pick up their debris. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good thing. I think it's a quality of life issue for our citizens, and I'm happy to do it. That's all I've got on that.
Also, Bell County ESD is going to be participating?
Correct, yeah, and I reached out to Chief Jim Franz. He's aware of it, and they're on board. They're gonna help us out with to oversee that burn once that happens, which will be the last week of June. Yeah, the view over right across the low water crossing going to Mill Creek. We're going to be right there in that parking lot at 7 a.m. tomorrow. And WC Tractor they were very gracious enough to donate the use of that the skid steer for the entire weekend. So I do really owe them a debt of gratitude because we'd be here for 2 weeks picking up this stuff by hand. So that's all I've got on that. Anybody have any questions for me on that?
The nature of the work tomorrow on the volunteer basis is chainsaws, or what were you expecting the volunteers to do?
We shouldn't, and the word we put out is that we want these things to be cut into manageable pieces, manageable size pieces. One, we don't want anybody getting hurt picking up things, but I think with the skid steer, it has that grappler on the front of it. Hopefully the heavy lifting will be at a minimal. I'm hoping some folks do show up with chainsaws just in case we need it, but the plan is now, if we have to cut it, we're not gonna touch it, because we put that word out with plenty of time to get somebody over there to get that debris cut into manageable size pieces.
And is it specifically residential, or did you say you opened it for commercial properties too?
Yeah, commercial properties are fine too.
Okay,
as long as it's in the village. Yeah.
In the village.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right. Anything you want to add to that?
No, sir, I think you got it.
Next item, update on the village's budget for fiscal year 2024 and 25. I'll take that one also. All right, we met last Thursday with our accountant and looked at all the things that were coming down the pipe, and it has been determined that we are going to reimburse property owners $468,000 and some change for the tax. The rollback was approved by the voters, and along those lines, and we knew that was a possibility. So early on, when the petition was filed, Manny and I had a conversation, and we decided it was probably the best thing to do would be to put aside that $500,000 just in case it passed, and it did. I didn't want to be in a position that it passed and then we didn't have the money to pay them back. So that's why we put the brakes on some of these services that were being provided to be able to save that money and put that money to the side, and we did. And that $468,000 check came across my desk this morning, and that was not pretty to look at for sure. And with that, we are currently sitting at about a $200,000 deficit. We're working through with 0 reserves, and we're working through and going through and just cutting out all the things that we don't absolutely have to have. We're looking at what we have to do to keep the lights on, looking at what we have to do to keep, folks gainfully employed, and that's kind of what my direction is. I don't want to affect anybody's livelihood, so we're going to start with services and equipment and things that we can get rid of that we don't need, things that we can, we got 2 PD vehicles that are up for the lease payment, right around $56,000 or $58,000, I believe, which we don't have. So we may end up sending those 2 vehicles back. We got another vehicle here that the transmission's bad on. Chief Fields' vehicle that he's been driving that for 2 years, and it has the air conditioner doesn't work in it. It needs new tires. It's going to cost more than what that vehicle's worth to get it back on the road. So he's driving another vehicle right now. So $468,000. That's a hit, and that's going to hurt. And there's going to be some things. I saw the thing recently on Facebook about the speed limit sign on Plato Plaza Drive and a little digital board that blinks and tells you how fast you're going. About it not working, and all I can say is get accustomed to things not working and to not having the money to fix it. Because with no money and no reserves, I don't know what else to do. We're along the lines, and we're going to continue to do what we can. I'll continue to do what I can. If I have to get out there and cut grass on Main Street myself, I'll find the time to do it. And if anybody else wants to get out there and help, I'm more than happy to have them help me. And thank goodness for Miss Tommy Prater and Joe Oliver and that group for helping us do what they do. I've been out helping them for the past couple of weeks, and we've cleaned out the drains underneath the low water crossing, and we've done that twice in the past couple of weeks. And thankfully, I like being in the water, so it wasn't really work for me because I love doing it. But it is dangerous work, but somebody has to do it, and I'm happy to do it because that's what needs to be done. You guys have any questions for me on that? Yes, I appreciate that. Anybody else? Nope. All right. Report on the Tax Appraisal District of Bell County's estimated reimbursement cost to process refunds.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mayor and Alderman, the $468,000 that are going to be paid back for will be processed by the Bell County Appraisal District, and they are charging us $5,269 for that service. So wanted to let you know about that. To add something about your budgets, I started in January 2024, so the 2024-2025 budget, it appeared when I came, it was adopted at about 41 cents. But it was actually changed at the dice the evening that budget was amended to 39.11 cents per $100 valuation. And it was already running in a deficit, and they added another $200,000 for road repairs. If you go back through your financial reports, you've been adopting budgets. I say you because now you are responsible for the absence of your prior leadership. Somewhere between 300 and 400,000, which is why you have no reserves. So when we look at this budget and what we're paying back, the options were you reduce personnel, you reduce services and equipment you don't need. We're also looking at police vehicles. But the point is, where do we stop? So how many police officers do you want to lose, or how many people in this office? You already don't have enough people to do the work that you need, that you've got going. So we are looking at this very seriously. It is the mayor's budget until it is presented to you, and then it is voted by you, then it becomes your budget. You have to approve, right? It's not his budget until it's consent by everyone else, but we work closely at this thing. Make sure that we can meet your goals and objectives. But I wanted to give you some of that insight. Our financial reports are on the city's website. There is nothing that can't be proven, and there will be no disputes about what's in there. So if you have any questions for me, I'll answer those at this time. But we will get down to the $468,000 that we've got to come back later on because it does exceed the $25,000. I need your approval. But it's one of those things that we don't really have much of a choice. The voters have spoken. So, Any questions on any of these items?
I have a question. Can you elaborate or expand a little bit on the $300,000 to $400,000 number that you just commented on from the past?
Yeah.
Please.
Yes, sir. The budget is adopted. For example, let's go to the fiscal year 24-25. Okay. When the budget was adopted at the DOT and it was reduced, there was no follow-up amending the budget to balance it with a new tax rate of 39.11 cents. And we had Chisholm Trail, drainage repairs at Center Street. We kept approving change orders. You were using up your funds. You had Salado School Road that we were still paying. So you had quite a few capital improvement projects. So that just means cities just not cities, organizations adopt budgets with deficit knowing that they have unrestricted reserves to balance the budget at the end of the year. So you have been adopting them, and you did have some reserves up until last year. So it's not uncommon. School districts do it all the time. Our local school district, if I was to look at it, probably have some things. I know the Austin School District, cities do this, but they have reserves. And then you amend your budget mid-year or at the end of the year. So what we're doing now is we will be presenting an amended budget for the current fiscal year that we're in at the 36.12 cents per $100 valuation. And because you have no reserves, we need to balance it. So some of these decisions, we may not get it all done at the next meeting. You may want to tweak it, make some changes. You may say, cut the staff. And then we'll see how many hours the city facilities office will be here open to be able to provide those services. But statutorily, you're a city and you have a lot of responsibilities to your citizens to provide certain services. Statutory open records requirements, you run a water and wastewater system, there are some compliance requirements. You have the sanctuary development that has a public improvement district that you've got to manage. You issue debt, no recourse to the village, but you have to manage those projects. Those are all of the type of business operations that come through my office every day. So I hope that answers the question, but the budgets were adopted and have been for a number of years. And you had reserves for a while, but you depleted them, and you depleted them certainly in the last year.
I have other questions. So you talked about change orders being approved. What is the process for approving change orders on a construction project, for example?
Yes, sir. If the contract's already been awarded, we get a change order. Sometimes they run into issues out in the field. They'll submit, the engineer's office, MRB group will send me a change order request. I then forward it to the Board of Aldermen. If it's something that it's time critical, I get an authorization individually. Once I've got the required number of majority, then I rather have that action ratified at the next meeting. And at that point, the mayor or some authorized person will sign. So change orders were approved, each and every one, with consent and approval by the Board of Aldermen.
Now, I'm going to add to that real quick, because I was on board last year for that. Every decision that was made by the Board of Aldermen about those change orders and things of that nature were based on information provided by the village administrator at that time. Center Circle, Salado School Road, the playground, all those things, it would come for change orders for increased costing, whatever the case may be. And again, we had our auditor got up in front of the board at that time, and gave us a good, clean bill of health, and saying we're flush with cash, reserves are good, we can move full steam ahead. A couple little housekeeping issues, that kind of thing, but nothing to raise any red flags. And it was just continuous. Center Circle, and Alderman Dunch and I discussed this prior to the election, we were looking at it. They're supposed to have ribbon curbing on there, and they cut that out to try to save money, and we're already seeing that it's starting to break off. It's just managed accordingly, and it was reported to the Board of Aldermen. I think it certainly left a lot to be desired.
If you get a change order from a contractor performing and you need a unanimous decision by this dais to approve that change order or not?
Yes, sir.
You do,
Yes.
unanimous. And so if you don't have that, then you just delay the process, and they would then have to, would it wait until the following Board of Aldermen meeting?
Yes, sir.
That's not a good place to be in a contract negotiation when you're talking about contractors. I don't mind saying that because I am one. I'll be willing to.
And we never delayed them, Alderman. We did.
Well, I understand that
Yeah.
because we spent money. So that's the ultimatum.
Yeah.
If you don't give me the change order money right now, I'm going to sit on my thumbs for a little while, at least 2 weeks, 3 weeks if you're looking at this past month, right?
Yes.
And so I think that that's a flawed system, perhaps. Maybe that's easier said than done, but I'd like to look at that at another time, please.
And also to clarify that the change orders that were coming through on the project that we're talking about, Mr. De La Rosa was not in that seat at that time.
I understand. I understand all
So
of
the things that we've paid for, just since I've been in office and since he's been here, are projects of the past that invoices continue to come in, and you got to pay them.
Yeah.
Well, and Mayor, let me, not to correct you, but the notice of proceeds were already issued for Chisholm Trail and Center Street. I was managing them near the end. Do you recall we had a water line that conflicted along Chisholm Trail?
Yeah.
It cost us $37,000. It was at the wrong elevation.
Yeah.
We did a change order, but I kept asking, how are you going to pay for these? I don't see it in your reserves. Month after month.
Yeah.
So it started very early on mine because I was looking at these, and to my right is our city engineer, Solomon Thomas, but I was having discussions with our accountant, and we were both kind of scratching our head. And again, I know what I did. I can't tell whether every change order on any of the projects went to the Board of Aldermen. As you know, we're looking at some of the areas that we've had wastewater lines put in, and I don't see approvals. Right? So, in other words, I can explain what I've done since January of 2024.
Yeah, I just have a little bit of concern with the change order process, and it seems like that could be a flawed system, not in our best
It is.
interest.
Other cities, I've worked for much larger cities,
Yes, sir.
and that approval was within the city manager's office, but it was, you needed to be kept informed, and if the engineer, and our city engineer told us that, yes, this is needed, this is a conflict out in the field that needs to be corrected, right? No fault of the contractor, you can't see below grade, but and if not, it delays the project.
Understood. I get the unforeseen and subsurface items, but there's also a game that can be played there.
Oh.
I've seen that as well, sir.
And I know that too.
I don't participate in it.
Yes, sir. No, I know contractors.
I'm sure
do.
you're familiar.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's it, Mayor.
I wanted to, just for education purposes, you told, I thought I heard you say that you need a unanimous decision on a change order prior to a Board of Aldermen meeting, but at the Board of Aldermen meeting, does it have to be unanimous again? Does it majority at that point?
Yes, sir, I stand corrected. It's not unanimous. I need a majority.
Okay.
Yeah.
On both?
And generally, a simple majority will work, right? 6 of you, generally if I get 4, unless I get a clarification, because generally the mayor doesn't vote.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So I'm looking for 4 aldermen, or I'm looking for 3 aldermen and the mayor, because that's a simple, once I get 3 aldermen, I've got a simple majority.
Under either scenario?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
One last question. So, someone spoke at the beginning, and I forget who it was, but are there opportunities for us to look at grants and other other avenues of money that we could potentially get from the state to help us with our financial position? Is that off topic?
No, it's, look, yeah, we're, based just on the budgets, because we're gonna have some of these discussions, the capital improvements is part of your budget process.
Okay.
There are not those kind of funds, right? We will discuss about the federal award that doesn't have a local match. The tech stop does have matches, and it's generally 20%, unless you can declare yourself and prove that you're a disadvantaged community or county, then it can drop from 20 down to 12% local match. But infrastructure projects, even if you were to get the award for the actual construction, the engineering, design, environmental are on the local jurisdiction. Also, what's difficult about this is you front the money, meet the compliance reporting, then you get reimbursed.
You
So in
front
other
a
words,
portion of the money.
portion of, yeah.
Understanding we don't.
Yeah,
have it.
but so in other words, you're not getting the money. It's not being held in escrow by the city. You've got to expense it, fill out the report, submit the reimbursement request, and it's anywhere from 30 to 60 days reimbursement.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? No? All right. Anything else, Danny?
Yes, sir.
Good. All right, thank you. All right, 5, discussion and possible action. A, consider approval of appointment of a mayor pro tempore for a term of 1 year. Mr. De La Rosa.
Okay, every year you get to appoint a mayor pro tem in the mayor's absence. So in other words, if the mayor is not here at a meeting, or if he's unable to sign or conduct his official duties, then the mayor pro tem steps in. So the appointment is for 1 year, and anyone can nominate, and it's done collectively. The simple majority appoints the mayor pro tem for 1 year period. Any questions?
Sandor, you have a question? Mr. Hurst? Alderman Bunch? Nope. Alderman McDonald?
No, Mayor.
All right. Any public comments on this? No? Okay. We'll open the floor for a motion. Okay, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we appoint Alderman Zach Hurst as Mayor Pro Tem for a term of 1 year.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Sandor. Okay, motion by me, seconded by Alderman Sandor. Any further discussion on this? Question. Question called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of approving or appointing Alderman Zach Hurst to the position of Mayor Pro Tem for a term of 1 year, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Keep saying?
Oh, I need to say yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, that carries 4 yeses and 1 abstention.
Very good. Give me a second there. Let me change out the plate. You might have to change seats. This thing's
Too small.
I like my seat.
You're going to be Alderman until the meeting's over.
Okay.
All right, item B, discussion of possible action on designating signatories for the Village of Salado bank accounts. So with Mayor Pro Tem Bell, he was...
He was the mayor pro tem. He was available during the daytime if we need him, or the evening. So any person can be. We generally have had only 3: the mayor, the administrator, and 1 alderman. But you can certainly have more than that. But it should be somebody. You get checks twice a week if you're gone, or if we need emergency, we just need 1 or 2 signatories added.
Okay. Alderman Sandor, do you have any questions?
No question.
Alderman Lassiter? Alderman Hurst?
No question.
Alderman Dunch? No questions. Alderman McDonald?
No question.
Any public comments on this item? None? We'll open the floor for a motion. Yes, sir. For Zach to be the signatory. Motion made by Alderman Lasser to designate now Mayor Pro Tem Hurst as a signatory on the Salado bank accounts, and seconded by, I'll second it, Alderman Bunch. Any further discussion on this item?
Question.
Question called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of designating Mayor Pro Tem Hurst as a signatory on the Village of Salado bank accounts, specify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Abstain. That carries. 4 yeses, 1 abstention. Item C, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 2025-08, a resolution to authorize the creation of the Central Texas Regional 911 Emergency Communications District.
Mayor, Henry, Mr. Jim Reed, the Executive Director for the Central Texas Council of Government, is here to speak on this item, and we have a PowerPoint presentation.
I have some copies of the presentation if anybody needs something to help start their fire. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm not going to waste your time by going over the slides in too great a detail because it's a bit of a review of what you've already seen. But I'm going to go through some of the points that have been raised in our conversations with your village administrator, and the mayor and I have talked a little bit since he serves on our board. Make sure I can get this to go. Basically, what I want to make sure that the public understands and the Board of Aldermen understand is what we are trying to create and how it will impact the emergency response of your citizens. So basically, what is an emergency communications district? It is different than an emergency services district, which you already have. An emergency communications district, all it does is provide 911 services. That's all it does. There's no response. There is no dispatch. It merely takes the 911 call from your citizen. It pays for the database that routes that call. It pays for the lines underground that go to the call center. And it pays for the box that sits on that call center that allows the operator to say 911, what's your emergency? That is the sole purpose of an emergency communications district, which is exactly what the COG does right now. And there are 27 ECDs in the state of Texas. So the key points, we manage technical aspects of 911. We maintain that system so that when someone calls, the right address comes up and the right map comes up. And this district is usually governed by a board that represents local jurisdictions within the district. Currently, you are a part of the 911 COG program, which is administered by the State Commission on Emergency Communications. Way back when 911 was formed, you could either be a district or you could go in the state system. Bell County and all of our other 6 counties in the COG chose to go with the state system. So that means that although the money is generated here locally, it is subject to state appropriations because we are managed by the state agency. All this district does is change where that money goes. Right now, and I'll show you in a slide in a moment, everybody in this room who has a cell phone pays 50 cents. Everybody who has a tablet that hooks to a cellular system pays 50 cents a month. Everybody who has a landline still at home pays 50 cents a month. All those 50 cents get aggregated by the phone company and they get sent to the state comptroller's office. State comptroller looks at this region's money and says, is this a COG system? If so, it goes into the state appropriation process. Is this a district? If so, it bypasses that process and it comes right back to the local region. That's what we're trying to do. So, very quickly, there's the emergency service fee. All the fees go up. About $286,000 a month goes to the state. 100% of it goes there, about $3.4 million a year. CSEC then allocates, subject to the state appropriations process, whatever percentage of that money they deem that we are worthy of that year. And it's usually a part of what the legislature needs money for something else. They can't spend the 911 money for anything else, but they can balance their budget with it. So If there's $143 million sitting in the 911 fund and the state wants to deficit spend $143 million, as long as they don't appropriate that 911 money, they can call their budget balance. So that's the problem. The problem is we get on average about 38 cents of the 50 cents that your citizens submit. The way it's going to work in the future if we pass this district is all the things stay the same, except you see this long bomb to the end zone. We bypass CSEC and 100% of the money comes back to the region. So you get local control, you get more stable funding because we don't have to guess every 2 years what the legislature is going to do to us. Several years ago during the biennium, when the governor challenged all state agencies to take a 10% cut, 911 took a 10% cut, even though it was a dedicated fee account. This won't happen if we form this new district. The last one, I hesitate to say because normally I get tackled by the chief of police afterwards, but I'm going to say it because I know that he won't tackle me. We get more flexibility if we become a district. Right now, we are only allowed to pay because of state rule for call delivery up to the point where someone says 911, what is your emergency? But a lot happens after that call is made. There's a radio call that goes to an officer in the field. There's a radio in that vehicle. There's a radio usually on that officer. There's a mobile data terminal that normally gets that data downloaded. And all of that is funded by you. If we become a district, it now becomes an allowable expense that we can reimburse. Now I say the reason I don't want the chief to tackle me is I need 5 years to build up a reserve chief, and then you can ask me for radios. Because we have to make sure we've built up enough reserve as a district that we have the ability to keep the lights on and keep the doors open and have that fund balance that y'all were talking about. But there is more flexibility to help offset local costs in the future. So how do you become a district? We're in the process of getting presentations and timelines done. 32 cities, 7 counties. 6 counties have passed their resolution, and 28 out of the 32 cities have passed their resolution. Why 6 counties? Because the exact moment that the last resolution is passed, we become a 911 district at that very moment. And we want to be able to time when that exit happens. There are some real financial implications if we don't time that right. And we could lose hundreds of thousands of dollars of the state if we don't time it exactly right. So we've asked Bell County to be the last resolution because they meet weekly. They're pretty regular in their meeting, and we can time to a Monday morning when we exit the state system. And so what we're in the process of doing is getting all of our other resolutions done, and we're down. We have 2 more tonight other than you that are considering it, and then we'll be down to 2 resolutions that we need out of the 39. We've already done our bylaws ratification. We've already got our telecom pay agreements in place. We already have our comptroller agreements in place. Our target is August. Why August? Because the state commission meets in July, and we're asking them for some money before we leave. And so we don't want to leave before we get some of the state's money. Actually get your money back from the state. And so we're on their agenda for July to get that money back before we leave in August. So what are the benefits? We're to kind of talk to local control, greater control, no change in the current fee. Let me be very clear. We are limited by statute to 50 cents per line. No matter what happens, we cannot exceed 50 cents per line with one caveat. If the state passes a change to everything at the state level and they raise the 911 service fee, then we would be included and we would be allowed to raise to that same level as the state. There are some districts in the state of Texas that have under their enabling legislation the ability to go above 50 cents. We do not have that. Our legislation is very clear. It was House Bill 737 and it says 50 cents we're capped. No effect on taxes. So there shouldn't be any change in the way your phone bills are done. There shouldn't be any change in the way that you are delivering the 911 call. There will be no change in where the calls are answered. There'll be no change in the equipment that's used. It'll merely be how it's paid for. We already talked about the resolutions passing. I already talked about the differences in the district We'd be funded exactly like we are now, would not be raised. So the bottom line is that if we form the Central Texas Emergency Services District, this will be the service area. It's the same as the COG. By statute, it's set. Funding projections are that we have more than enough money with our 50 cents that each of your residents pay to fund this district and have leftover money. On average, we generate an excess of revenue over expenditures of about $400,000 a year because we run a very lean, efficient program. And you might ask, well, where's all that money going right now? Well, the state has a rule that if I operate an efficient system, the way we get rewarded is I get to go see Bobby Whitson and the Bell County Commissioners every other year and write them a check. The largest county in the COG gets it, that rebate of all the leftover money, leftover revenues. When we become a district, we'll be able to retain that revenue, build up our reserve, and then ultimately be able to offset some of your local costs on radios and MDTs. So there's more than enough money to run the district. That is the proposed logo for the new district. That's what it will look like on letterhead when you see it. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have about your consideration of a resolution of support.
Mr. Reed, what are the 7 counties that the COG represents, and I know that I've been part of these conversations, but just for the board's
Yes, sir.
clarification. If any municipality in that 7-county, and if anyone says, no, we don't want to do this, what does that do to this?
It kills it.
It has to be across the board, everybody
Has
approves
to be everybody.
Okay.
Has to be unanimous.
Okay. All right. Alderman Sandor?
The bill was written vague enough that it took an attorney general's opinion to get to that point. The last entity that did this was North Central Texas Council of Governments up in Dallas. They had to get 297 resolutions. So that's when that was promulgated.
Okay. Alderman Sandor, you have any questions? No. Alderman Lassiter? Alderman Lassiter, you have any questions? Oh, sorry.
He's doing a mind meld right now.
he's just looking at you. He knows what I'm talking about.
He's staring me down.
Expansion? No expansion ever.
There would be no expansion. Let me just be I'll go into a little bit deeper detail at the risk of confusing everybody now that I think I've tried to clarify it. Where the rubber hits the road and where we spend our money is in what's called a PSAP, a Public Safety Answering Point. We operate about 18, and I say about because you have to weigh the backup ones a little differently. We used to operate 10 in Bell County alone, but Bell County contracted all of those into one mega center known as the Bell County Communications Center. We won't expand our geographic area ever. Under very, very rare circumstances, if McLennan County were to decide they didn't want to be in hot cog anymore, they could petition to come to us, but we'd have total say in whether we wanted to do that. We may contract other PSAPs. And the reason I say that is that right now, the state decides whether or not we can have more or less PSAPs. And so, for example, after the Fort Hood shooting, there was not a PSAP on Fort Cavazos, it was Fort Hood then. There was not a PSAP on Fort Cavazos, and we petitioned the state, and they allowed us to expand, and we now fund that PSAP. However, in Lampasas County, we have 2 PSAPs that are within 150 feet of each other. With radio technology and digital technology, there's no reason why I need 2 PSAPs within 150 feet of each other. And each one costs about $250,000 to $300,000 a year to keep open. So although it's not a real popular thing to talk about, the board is going to, I'm sure, start looking at our budget very early on in the history of this district and say, how can we do things a little differently than the state used to allow us? The reason the state wouldn't allow me to close one of the PSAPs in Lampasas County is Lampasas County made a deal with the state back in 1991 as the last county to adopt 911 that they would always have 2 PSAPs. But that agreement goes away the moment we form a district. And so there are going to be some system discussions about can we contract the system a little bit, still provide the same level of service, Let's save some money.
Last question for me, would, oh boy. I've forgotten the question. I'll pass. Thank you.
I'll circle back. Mayor Pro Tem Hurst.
No questions.
Alderman Dunch. First of all, Mr. Reed, thank you for the clarification, because this really drove home the benefits of it and drove it home. But it seems like in the last week when I was researching all this, the trend is as you get big enough that we're at that point where it sounds like it makes sense. What does that mean for the ones that aren't, communities that aren't big enough to better common good of man for 911? Because the funding is going to go away for those communities. So how are they, I mean, there's an impact now. It sounds like this is a win-win-win for us, but
It is.
it definitely feels like it impacts smaller communities.
It will, and let me just, you know, if I had a whiteboard, I could probably draw it a lot more efficiently than I'm going to use my old Army aviator talking with my hands to try and figure this out. So hopefully I don't confuse you. There are 24 COGs in the state of Texas. There are 8 that are big enough that right now they can make this move, have enough money, pay their bills, and be just fine. There are 8 that will never generate enough money because they're in very rural parts of the state and they need additional financial assistance. And then there's 8 in the middle that some may and some may not, depending upon how their counties grow. So the question, if I'm understanding correctly, Alderman, is what happens to those last 8 if the rich 8 punch out?
Yep.
And what happens is the state has put into place a secondary funding network called the 911 surcharge fee. Told you, now I'm going to complicate it. Every time you make a long distance call, you don't know it, but you get charged a fee. It's called an equalization surcharge. If you're really bored, look at your cell phone bill. It's listed there. It says 911 equalization surcharge. So you're not only paying 50 cents for 911. If you make long distance calls, you're paying a surcharge. And that surcharge fund is managed by the state, and they use it to supplement those 8 county or those 8 systems that will never generate enough revenue. So they will always stay in the state system unless the state finds another way to get that equalization money to them and bypass the state. So is it going to hurt them if we leave? No. The state will have to scale CSEC back because instead of managing 24 COGs, they're going to be managing 16 pretty soon. And then they may be managing 12, which means that the number of analysts they need, the number of financial people they need will shrink. So that agency, that state agency will scale, and therefore the fiscal impact of carrying that agency won't disproportionately fall on those that remain. And they'll get the surcharge fee. We're not eligible for surcharge because the formula shows that we generate more than enough revenue in our region to cover our expenses. So we're not giving up anything by leaving.
Thank you. No more questions. Alderman McDonald.
I have questions, Mr. Reed. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We'll start with the basics. So, 50 cents, and you're talking at 50 cents based on the 286,000 based on the PowerPoint. That's somewhere along the line. There's 572,000 customers. I'm just rudimentary numbers, okay? And at $286,000, that's at the 50-cent mark, generally speaking, as you're discussing.
Yes, sir.
You've also talked about a 0.38 cent is what you're currently getting on average?
On average.
On average?
Some years it's better, some years it's worse. Some biennia is better, some it's worse.
So
It depends upon the appropriations process.
Right. So I'm just using these numbers out loud. The difference between those two numbers on a yearly basis is roughly $68,600. I'm sorry, a monthly basis. My apologies. That represents $283,000 a year. That's a big delta.
It absolutely
Okay?
is.
That is a huge delta. So I'm going to ask some questions that are pretty poignant on that. Why do you need 50 cents if you're doing it for 38? Just a general question, okay? Because I know that conversation is going to come.
It's a great question. We can never go up but the board is allowed to lower the 911 service fee. So the board's going to adopt a reserve policy,
Yes,
much
sir.
like you will, and they'll say, Jim, when you hit $3.2 million, which is 1 year of operating or 2 years of operating, or whatever they decide, the board decides is their governing number for a reserve, then I will have to present them a new budget annually. And I will say, we're going to stay at 50 cents and do a grant program for radios and MDT terminals and dispatch centers and all those sort of things to take the burden off of local government entities. Or do you want to lower the 911 service fee to 32.5 cents, much like a tax rate? And the board will have the authority to lower it, but they can never raise it above the 50 cents. So I can't predict what the board will do, but so far, every indication is that they will leave it at 50 cents at least for the foreseeable future until an adequate reserve is built up for the district.
And to kind of coalesce on a prior opinion to the chief, 5 years chief, is kind of like, I'm hearing that it's a resounding conversation.
It's kind of what we're predicting.
Kind of what you're predicting, okay. And the only reason I'm asking this, sir, is because the current system is currently working. It's just to be very blunt, and I understand SIGCOG and I respect what y'all do there. I'm just asking the question, why does SIGCOG want to do this?
We want to do it because we think that in the long term, we have been ahead of the curve on the state for a long time. This last biennium, the state appropriated, again, you start peeling this onion, it goes downhill fast. 911 has traditionally been an analog system. You know, it's old trunk lines. They couldn't do digital 911. They could not do what's called next gen 911. You couldn't send video to 911. You couldn't send text to 911. The state is still trying to deploy next gen 911. We've been deployed next gen 911 for 4 years. So the state appropriated $2.1 million to us last biennium and said, they did all the COGS, some money based upon population. Ours was 2.1, and they said, this is for 911 next-gen purposes only. And I said, that ship's already sailed. We did that 5 years ago. And they said, okay, then you can't use the money. Got to give it back to us. And so we are finding that the lack of control over our system, and we're so far ahead of the state as far as technology. We already have text to 911. You can send video to 911. We can see video feeds on our 911. Why be encumbered by the state's regulations, the state's restrictions, and the uncertain state funding model when we have this legislative fix that allows us to get out of the state system, self-govern, and have our cake and eat it too. And so that's, and I will also tell you, nothing's going to change on my staff. No one's getting promoted. No one's getting a raise. No one's changing it. The statute says that I have to become the executive director of the new district, so I'm taking on an additional job. We just think it's the right thing to do for Central Texas. I would love nothing more in 5 years to be able to come back to you and say, we have $1.2 million. Do y'all need radios? Do y'all need new mobile data terminals for your police cars? Does the fire department need new mobile data terminals and radios? I'd love to be able to have that opportunity. I'm never going to have that opportunity if I stay in the state system.
One last question, and thank you for answering. If you're already that far ahead of the state, I'm just using simple terms, if you're already that far ahead of the state in the chute when it comes to technology and supportive services, what would be the for the community's needs, for all of the community's needs for SIGCOG's reach, what would be the loss if this did not pass tonight to them?
The loss would be that we probably are technologically as far as we're going to be able to go with the state's funding model. And let me just give you an example. If there were a power outage and the generator were to fail or a tornado were to hit the Bell County Communications Center, there are 20 answering points in that building. Those calls are going to get rerouted digitally. They're going to swamp my other 16 answering points. They're going to bury them. And so if I can't build a backup center that is functional at the same call volume for Bell County, in an emergency, there's going to be a degradation of services. People are going to get busy signals. Their calls are going to roll to Williamson County. Their calls are going to roll to Travis County. Someone on their worst day, when they call 911 and say, hey, I fell off a ladder and I need an ambulance. I'm sorry, I did that last year, so I'm using myself as an example. Someone in Travis County is going to say, where's Salado? And you're going to spend precious time explaining to the dispatcher in Travis County, and they're going to have to transfer that call back up and find out how we're answering calls now that that call center is down. I don't have that capacity right now. The other short pole in this tent is radio communications. I could collapse the entire region into one call center because technology would allow me to do that. It'd be the most efficient way to do it. The problem is, if I answer a Mills County call in Belton, Texas, I can't speak by radio to the deputy back in Mills County because I don't have tower coverage to get the radio call back out there.
Line of sight.
I don't have line of sight. And so ultimately I could envision that we would collapse our 18 call centers to 2. And there would be a primary in Bell County, and there would be a secondary in Mills County, right at the base of a really nice 3,000-foot tower they have out there. And we would invest in the infrastructure to connect those 2 communication towers so that if this call center goes down, this call center has capacity to take it all. And if this one goes down, this one's there to take it all. And they're geographically separated enough by 100 or so miles that it's not likely that the same weather event's going to knock them both out. Right now, my backup for Belton is in the basement of the Killeen Police Department, and it's 6 or 8 positions. That call center is going to be swamped if this one goes down, because those 22 positions, those calls are just going to flow. So long term, I think that's the end state, and we will never be able to fund those kind of improvements if we don't run our own system.
Thank you, Mr. Reed, for answering my question.
No problem.
Mr. Reed, would this also, with the COG running this, put you in a position to have sort of like a emergency management coordination where you could deploy, for lack of a better term, where if you have your normal, say you have 20 call takers at the Bell County Communications Center, or whatever that number is, and then you have a situation like we had with the tornado 2 years ago, also with the ice storm of 2021, where that Bell County Communications is just inundated, and then you could deploy this mobile command center, or whatever you're going to call it, to where you would have an extra bank of call takers and that sort of thing. Could that fund something like that as well?
It could fund that. We actually have a mobile command post that has 2 call positions in it and the ability to do an auxiliary tent off the outside where we could branch into 10 additional call positions. We've never had to exercise that capability, and it was funded through Homeland Security dollars, which have now been slashed to the bone. And so we still have the mobile command center, but we don't have the most up-to-date technology in there to be able to expand that out into a mobile call center. But with this district, we'd probably have the ability to propose that for the excess funding if that's what the region decided was the #1 priority.
Because currently, with Bell County Communications, and I'll just use fire as an example, you have fire and EMS. You've got one dispatcher that is doing east side fire, doing west side fire, east-west of the I-35, but even during less than significant events, July 4th, New Year's Eve, where you got fireworks going off and setting people's fields on fire and that kind of thing, I can speak to this. Commissioner Whitten's here, he can speak to this. Mr. Boynton's a retired firefighter, he can speak to that. The system was inundated with phone calls, and we had calls on hold and
Absolutely.
couldn't get through. You key up on the radio, try to get somebody at dispatch, you couldn't get them on the radio because there was so much going on. And would this open up an opportunity to say, okay, well, we're getting overwhelmed, let's go ahead and activate this system?
It opens up the opportunity. The problem is staffing it.
Yeah.
And staffing is handled by Bell County Communications, which is a consortium of all of the first responding entities in Bell County. And the way that their budget works, having watched it since its inception, is the E-Board, the executive board, takes a recommendation from the RBO, which is the Radio Board of Operators, which is typically chiefs of different agencies. And the chiefs are usually all in favor of let's expand services so that we have extra capacity. And then I don't mean to take darts at the people who sit at the E-board, so Bobby, please don't go tell the judge I'm throwing him under the bus, but typically those city managers and mayors sit there and say, I'm not sure I can sell a 30% increase so that I can have this excess capacity. So they're constantly doing a scaling exercise as to how much capacity they can afford to buy and tax for, as opposed to what the surge capacity is required to be. And those are decisions that are made at the Bell County Communications Center level. We'll be able to equip them if they make that decision to expand their staffing, but the staffing is the expensive part of it. The equipment's a one-time expense, you know, putting in additional 4 or 10 call stations, and it's not cheap, but it's not the expensive part. Having 3 shifts plus flex time workers to staff those 10 positions is a very expensive proposition.
Alderman Lassiter, you circle back to your question?
Well, Mr. McDonald picked up on it, so thank you. It's your last question. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Appreciate all your work on this. And I think it was well done.
Okay.
Good. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any public comments on this agenda item? No. Mr. Del Rosa, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I will open the floor for a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve 2025 TAC 08 as written.
Motion made by Alderman McDonald to approve resolution number 2025 TAC 08 as presented. Second. And seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hurst. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of approving resolution number 2025 TAC 08, a resolution to authorize the creation of the Central Texas Regional 911 Emergency Communications District, specify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? That carries 5-0. Mr. De La Rosa. Mr. Reed, thank you so much for your time. Item D, discussion and possible acceptance of the Tourism Department report for the month of April. Ms. Whitson.
Good evening, Mayor and Alderman.
Evening.
Hello, Mayor.
All right. So this is our April tourism report. Every Tuesday of the week, we always give emails to our lodging group as well as to our businesses. I've separated them on purpose. And then what we do is we update them with any of our events that are happening in town. We give them the link to the websites. We let them know any events that are coming in the future so that they can use that for marketing tools for visitors or maybe for their own website for the business owners. And then we connect also. We are very close with our hotel industry. And so we have asked them that if they have any groups coming and they'd like some goodie bags, we love to welcome the group. We do this welcoming group as from Visit Salado on the tourism side. So you'll see the groups that we've done here. We did 101 goodie bags in April. And the first 2 that you see, the Packard group and the Georgetown group, were from the Holiday Inn that they brought, and we welcome them. And then the other group was a Weber group, and this was just a group of friends that came shopping in Salado. And a lot of times when I get those calls and they ask, hey, we have a group that's coming, what is there to do in town? I usually tell them if they will come and see me, then I'll have a goodie bag and bring them when they do have a group size. So that's what you'll see there. In the in the goodie bags, you'll see here is just a breakdown of the spending. Average spending is $90 a day. This is going to be your ROI here, which is a return on investment for these goodie bags. Now, each goodie bag is branded with marketing items. Each bag costs about $3 a bag. And in return of that, it's to enhance for the potential of a visitor to come and spend extra dollars with us. and bring that money into the local economy. Obviously, $90 a day, depending on how much they're here, that just adds up along with the number of group size that they have. Then it's to offer a marketing material they get to keep. We get to stay top of mind. We also have available marketing materials for the visitors to share with others. So if maybe they might not want that item in a goodie bag, but they want to share it with a friend, then that's also. And then last, honestly, it just builds goodwill. And we want our village to be a friendly village, and we want them to see us and our business owners and our lodging groups as friendly. And so it's just a great reminder of come back to us. We always look for great ways to promote. And so one of the things we did was I sat and watched about a 4-hour for a film-friendly certification to see where we are on that. And then we also schedule appointments with our hotels and Airbnbs recently to do photos. So what we did on our social media was we have asked each hotel or Airbnb that we have, let us take pictures, and a lot of times some of them are not as updated, so we've gone and take pictures, and we have displayed them individually on our social media marketing so that each one gets their own individual caption, so that, I mean, something fits everybody, and so a visitor will come and they'll see each one on their own, and then they'll know all the different places that there are. So our hotels were excited about that, and we have done that. It's on our social media. And then you can see Facebook. Our Facebook's done really well. I have a great team. Melanie is on my team. She does beautiful with her words and her history, and so we get a lot of hits. And her famous is Word of the Day, and everybody loves Word of the Day of what Salado does. So she helps us with the Facebook and does a beautiful job with it. And then we have a Salado Jewel in the second quarter. And this is going to be the advertisement that's currently in there right now for second quarter. And then I also updated the third quarter to reflect, originally we had a website that we are working on, and they created a new logo for us. And they also created, because of the history, they created as a brand. And I was asked to not use that anymore, so I went back to our old version of our Visit Salado logo, and I did our own brand on Canva, and you can see. So that's what you're going to see in the third quarter, where those changes came into play. Okay. And that's what I have for the report for April.
Thank you.
Yes.
Alderman Sandor.
No question.
Alderman Lassiter.
Will the billboard issue come up that we had discussed at the last meeting later, or we're just looking for a status report on that?
Yeah, this is, it's not on the agenda tonight to discuss that.
Okay.
Billboard, but it's just her, this is just her, report for April.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna.
Mayor Pro Tem Hurst.
No question.
Alderman Dutch.
You mentioned the Facebook stuff, and I've seen that. Is that tied to Instagram as well?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Alderman McDonald.
Thank you for the report. No question.
Sure. You're welcome.
All right.
Mayor, if I may, this Salado Jewel was the first time I'd seen it. So if Ms. Whitson can inform the alderman the metrics and how we determined that it was suitable.
Okay. So give me just a second.
While she's looking for that, what we started doing, Ms. Pence meets with Ms. Whitson every week. We were having advertisements without any performance metrics prior to Ms. Whitson. That is no longer acceptable. We want to know what the metrics are, what's the intended audience, what's the outreach, how many flyers, magazines, where are they going, who's getting them, what service centers. So based on that, as a matter of fact, I didn't even know the second quarter was in the magazine until I saw it in the monthly report. So, as a city administrator, I don't like seeing something when I see it in the magazine or a report that I haven't been told up front. So, those metrics are going into place, and we meet weekly, and based on the information that Tim Fleischer provided Ms. Whitson, it's satisfied that it met the metrics, and she should be able to go that over with you. But everything that we do, just like the billboard or anything else, when we see these things, we're looking to see what's the intended audience, where we at, are we within the parameters, and just like we discussed at the last meeting when it came to the billboard. So wanted to give you at least some of that insight with these reports, and which is, I'd seen something that I couldn't get an answer on metrics. I wanted to address it, or at least look at it again. That's why we're 2 weeks behind. So, Ms. Whitson?
I'd like to make a correction on that because we have been doing the Jewel for the last year since I've been here. It's been something that's been continued each month, every quarter. It's been paid for since I've been here. It started in 2013, and yes, they did not have any metrics. I was asked that just recently, 2 days ago, and I got the metrics for Mr. De La Rosa and for Ms. Pence. I did not realize that, one correction on one credit on his side is that if the ad was changed, that the board needed to approve that ad, and there had been an ad in there for months. And I just recently updated that, which is what you're going to see in the second quarter. And then that third quarter got changed, which is back to our current logo, and to the brand that was on there as well. So I just got these from Fleischer because I was asked by Ms. Pence for the update of that just before our meeting a couple of days ago. I can tell you the exact date if you need, but either way, I had asked, so just so that you know, they pass out, they create these, they being the Village Voice, create the Jewel. They take about 10,000, I have it on here too, 10,000 to 20,000 depending on the quarter. Each quarter has a number that they pass out all over the state of Texas. There's 13 Texas visitor centers. They personally have to get approved for them. And Mr. Fletcher had said over time that they used to have to do it every quarter. However, it is now for them just once a year because they've done such a good job with it. They pay over $300 themselves to distribute those. And about 100 to 200 people a week get their distributions. And I'm going to read this to you just to make sure I don't give you anything incorrect. It says, the Salado Jewel magazine is the only publication in Salado that has met the criteria to be accepted for display in 13 Texas travel centers. I have included a link on the criteria below. I have also attached the acceptance letter for the TxDOT for the Jewel of 2025. For several years, we had to apply each quarter, but now we only apply once a year. We send 100 magazines to each center at a shipping cost of more than $300 per quarter. The Texarkana station gets 200 because they hand them out so often. As a magazine, we are afforded special consideration for placement in the centers. We also carry a box or two, 100 to 200, to the Georgetown Visitor Center. The digital Jewel is on the front page and every page and post of the Village Voice. And in the past 28 days, the Village Voice has had more than 2,500 unique visitors, 103 total impressions with more than 1,600 click-throughs. And the Jewel's also included in our weekly email to our list of 900 email readers. Our open rate is 60%, which is more than double in the industry standard. The click rate is 21,000, which is 19%, above the industry of 2% click-through on bulk emails. The Jewel's inserted in the first edition of the Salado Village Voice each quarter. It is distributed in restaurants, inns, shops, galleries, real estate office bars, wineries, salons, Airbnbs, traditional bed and breakfast, hotels throughout Salado. And the print edition has readership of more than 20,000 each quarter based on the industry standard of a 2.3 to 2.5 per copy. So that's kind of that is our ROI. I had asked if that was sufficient, and Mr. De La Rosa said that that was fine, that was what he was looking for on that ROI on that. And that was on Monday that was sent. And then I have another one here. Excuse me. Well, I have another email here to Ms. Pence and to Mr. De La Rosa about the 10,000, the quarter wise. I can tell you here for their son sent me the information. Okay, so on there it says 20,000 plus more for quarter 3 and 4, and 10 to 20,000 on the first and the second quarters. So that's how many get coming out to them.
Okay. Yeah, the point is that regardless of how we've done in the past, you should be able to know why you're doing it today, which is where I'm going with this today. So we're looking at this exactly to see, and this is applicable to every department, every employee. Can't have a clerk sent, well, I've done it this way because that's the way we've always done it. So we are holding every employee accountable for whatever they do to make sure that it meets some goal or objective, or is there a reason that you do it that way? Because it appears to be incorrect. So, any questions for me?
Yes. So, I don't think I totally understand your concern. She didn't have the metrics prepared in time, or I'm a little bit lost on what the concern is here.
No, yeah. Somebody going to say something?
No.
No, the concern is if we're advertising, I see Salado Jewel, I'm thinking, is this just local? We don't need to be advertising to our local folks. Do we have an outreach? And who's that target? I mean, we already know what we have here. So I don't know anything about Salado Jewel. So when I pose a question, what's the intended audience? Where's the outreach? And it says travel centers. Which travel centers? How many travel centers? How far away? Now it makes more sense. You want to get Georgetown folks here, and you want to get them from other areas. So you don't want to just get people in Bell County. What is your outreach? So when I'm asking for metrics, but it's more of a business operation. Are we doing the best that we can with the expenses that we're doing? So once I saw the email, then I was satisfied. But I had to pose the question. When I would think that we would already know that we meet all expectations and that we should know what the metrics are. If you put an ad in, who's your intended audience? Because I haven't heard, and I certainly don't understand this magazine for me to go, where'd you send it to? How many did you send? Did you send one magazine to 13 locations? Or did you send hundreds to certain locations? So, and that's kind of the point being is, which is why the mayor asked that this be on the consent agenda. I mean, on this agenda, and so we would start giving you more reports on where we are with our tourism and hotel industry.
These jewels do get passed out to the visitors every time they're here. When they're at the visitor center, that's what they use for the map. We give them that with the rack cards. Every business owner gives them out. The hotels have them, and they give those out as well too.
So it's a simple policy and procedure change to make this work a little more efficient next time?
To a place where there's no policy right now.
Yes, sir.
And that's what we're working through. Yes,
understood. Sir. Okay. Thank you.
And I'm happy to help Manny, and y'all understand as well too for those.
Yeah, I think for that reason, I know Ms. Whitson used to get up and do her tourism report every month, and she fields it as well. And the previous board they thought that it was too time consuming. and they wanted to see it on the consent agenda. And this is, I know this is not, we can't take action on this tonight, but this is, I asked to put this on the agenda for her to be able to give that so we could have these conversations and be able to discuss it openly. Because the community wants to know too, and they have questions, and I think there's some value in Ms. Whitson getting up and even the chief getting up and giving his report to us verbally for everyone to see and hear. I do think there's some value to that, so much more so than the consent agenda. So I think we'll discuss that later, but I would like to continue this trajectory of putting it back on the actual agenda and not the consent agenda. But I think to answer or to piggyback off Alderman Sandor's question about the metrics, you were just simply looking to drill down more and figure out the numbers of how many is going out and where are they going to. Just wanted more details.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alderman Lassiter.
I appreciate what you did. Thank you very much. I look forward to hearing more about our tourism efforts on a monthly, bi-monthly, every 2 weeks.
Monthly. This one was a little late.
I think it's very valuable to hear that, know where our money's being spent, and our retailers really need to know what we're trying to do to help them. So I commend them for it, and I do appreciate you keeping it on the agenda. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem. No questions. Alderman Dunch.
No, I really appreciate the question. I appreciate getting to know where the value is, because I knew the jewel had a reach, but I got educated quite nicely tonight. So I think the fact that, tourism is a huge for us, and making sure that we get the word out, and it sounds like it's very effective. So thank you guys for putting it to the agenda. I appreciate it.
Alderman McDonald.
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Any public comments on the tourism report? No, Mr. Del Rosa, you have anything else you want to add?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will open the floor for a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to accept item 5D as presented by the tourism department.
Motion made by Alderman McDonald to accept the tourism report as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Dunch. Any further discussion? Question called by Mayor Pro Tem Hurst. All in favor of acceptance of the tourism department report for the month of April, specify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? It carries 5-0. Mr. Del Rosa. Discussion and possible action on the Texas Department of Transportation project on Royal Street from Smith Branch Road to FM 2268, which is Main Street.
Okay, before I introduce our city engineer, let me kind of start this off. On the second page, page 2 of 17, you'll see that at the bottom. You'll see item number 3, scope of work. This project consists of mill and overlaying of the existing roadway, install ribbon, curb, and sidewalks along Royal Street from Smith Branch Road to FM 2268 as shown in attachment A. 2268 is spur 2268, which is South Main Street. Okay. So, and there's an attachment A in there. If you actually go to the second to the last page, you're going to see attachment B. So A is on front, it's got the map. Attachment B is the second to the last page. You're going to see the local participation costs of $462,000. But look at the the far left total cost estimate, $2.241 million. Okay. So this project needs, we actually, there was a resolution attached in August of 2023 that was provided back on page 1. We actually signed this advanced funding agreement, the AFA, on April 4th of 2024. That is a full 3 months after I started. So not too long thereafter, we realized, I don't know if I can make the June 2026 let date that we're already coming up on June of 2025, and we're only at 30%. So you have to pay for the design and environmental out of your funds, and then the construction is that participation. So, and you front all of the money and get reimbursed. So, I was asked the other day by a local reporter along in front of the mayor, well, how do you want to propose to keep it alive? I can't forecast your revenue streams because it's slowing down. We have a little bit of commercial. We were out there today at one of the sites, but we don't have a lot. And even if it got built today and it got on our tax records on January 1st of 2026, you won't see taxes until a year later. You'll see sales tax, but not property tax. So the question I'm posing, and Mr. Solomon Thomas, the project manager for MRB Group, our city engineer, will walk you through some of the finance and some of the issues that or at least he can explain the design, since this was discussions that were held way before I came. So, Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Alderman, for having me. So, as Manny pointed out, there are still remaining costs associated with completing the design of Royal Streets. Now, Manny, you read a scope that said mill and overlay.
That's what it says on in the page 2 of 17 in this advanced funding agreement.
So I don't know if this advanced funding agreement just never got updated, but the K-Tempo project got updated to a different scope. So your advanced funding agreement changed from mill and overlay to a full reconstruction. So what we're looking at design-wise and construction is a full reconstruction. I think the original project, if I remember right, was maybe somewhere around $1 million, but K-Tempo approved additional funds to do the full rebuild. But it does appear that that didn't get it updated.
Yeah.
If you look on the K-Tempo website, the scope is to pulverize the existing asphalt, stabilize the remaining base, and apply 2 inches of hot mix asphalt concrete surface along Royal Street from Smith Branch Road to FM 2268, and install ribbon curb on both sides and sidewalk on one side of the road. So the scope did get revised apparently after this, or just didn't get updated in the advanced funding agreement.
Okay, because this is signed May 1st of 2024, right? So when I've got from TxDOT.
Yes,
now,
I don't know on the advanced funding agreement if TxDOT just didn't get that done or if the scope changed after. I don't know which came first. So
now you can certainly probably spend more or increase the scope, but it's capped at that dollar amount, their participation.
Yes, what Manny's saying is correct. That the funding from, if you look at on the advanced funding agreement, the attachment B page, mine says 1 of 1, but I think you said.
No, yeah, they're single pages. It's second to the last page out of the A.
Attachment B, yeah.
Yeah, their attachment's not numbered.
So the way that K-Tempo and TxDOT funds projects, generally speaking, not always the case, there's always exceptions to any rule, is 80% federal and 20% local. So this one is 80-20, meaning that the construction cost and some state fees are the responsibility of the local government. And this is just an advanced funding for construction. As Manny pointed out, the design fees are not included in these costs. So we've done 30%, and back in November of 2024, Manny asked me to update what the remaining costs would be associated with bringing this through construction. And so there's still approximately $489,500 of engineering to finalize the plans, finalize the environmental, do a bid manual, bid the project, have an inspector on the project for 4 hours a day, half-time for 18 months, have construction admin about 10 hours a week for 18 months, and then have grant services. So with a K-Tempo grant, there's requirements for reporting that have to happen. And so all those 7 types of fees would be approximately $489,500 to bring that to completion. So, but what this is to basically completely rebuild the road, put ribbon curbs on the outside to contain the road, because right now you'll have cars that drive off the edge of the road, which deteriorates edges of roads. Yeah. And then also to have sidewalk, it would connect, the 30% plan shows sidewalk connecting to Chupacabra and then running down on the south side of the road, basically to Sanctuary. No, the sidewalk only went
Smith Ranch Road.
to what?
Smith Ranch Road.
No, the sidewalk didn't run the full extent of the project in the 30% design. I think it went down to Center Street. Yeah. Where you see the majority of your pedestrian traffic.
Yeah.
From Main Street to where? Center Circle?
Center Circle.
Okay.
Current design.
That's the current 30% plans, what was developed to this point.
Now, when were the costs for this project calculated or estimated?
So yes, this was May of 2023 was the construction update. And then, so, you know, those costs probably would increase, not probably, would increase. So it would probably be more. Right now, the engineering estimate as of May of 2023 was 1.9 million, which is lower than the 2.1 that was in the project. With y'all's match, obviously, is the 2.1. But yes, there is potential and probability you'll see prices continue to increase for that number to increase also. And then, yes, the local government would be responsible for any costs above the funded amount by TxDOT KTEMPO. That's your match just for the 2.1 million. So the design would be an additional to that, and the potential for, as costs continue to increase whenever you let this in inflation, addition to that to push your budget above there. I would estimate about 6% per year. So if you're, I'm gonna have to use a calculator for that. So if you let in 2026, 3 years,
Just north of 510,000.
510?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, if you did a 6% inflation on 1.9 million over 3 years, you're at 2.2 million and some change. So there you're pushing another at least 150,000. And if you have higher inflation than if you have lower inflation, I mean, again, I can't predict inflation.
No, I know. I'm just looking for
but just that's what we're kind of using
rough
in the industry
numbers
right
on
now is 6%.
Okay, that's fair.
So that $489,000 for use of the engineering, does that include the environmental?
Yes.
That's all it is.
Alderman Sandor, you have any questions?
Yeah, I don't, with all due respect, I feel like this is a little bit ill-prepared, so I'm a little bit lost. I do this stuff for a living, and that was hard to follow on the way in. What are we, I mean, are these numbers, are these the right numbers? The scope's wrong, there's some other things wrong. Are these numbers correct?
The cost associated with a full rebuild is where the 2.1 funding that KTEMPO gave to the village is from.
What is the 30% plan language you use? What does that mean?
So in engineering, generally, you have a 30% design plan that goes to review. So with that, you have your basic typical sections and your rolled out plan. You don't have surveying, you don't have, you know, all the details that go into that. So basically it's almost like a schematic, almost a little more detailed than a schematic. But you kind of have a general plan layout, and you know what the cross section of the road and the sidewalk and everything's going to look like.
And this total estimated cost is based on comparable?
Right. So what I do is I use TxDOT bid averages to come up with unit prices and then estimate based off of the plan layout, the quantities of the roadway. And so that's what my OPC that we delivered to the village includes, which was the 1.9 million.
And I also think I heard you say 2 inches of asphalt and concrete in the same sentence. Was that right?
So it's called hot mix asphalt concrete. Most people in the industry just call it hot mix.
Okay.
It's just it's called HMAC.
Understood. But yeah,
Yeah.
just for others
Yeah.
maybe. So is it 2 inches as it's laid or post compaction?
Post compaction. So
And that's it? It's just 2 inches? That's the finished product on top of whatever the road base is?
So yeah, what we have in the estimate is 8 inches of flex base, and then cement treating your subgrade. 8 inches of cement treatment on your subgrade.
But there's been no geotechnical?
This is based on the geotechnical
It is,
report,
good.
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem Hurst, Alderman Dutch.
I don't know whether, is there potential, because obviously we are in a financial crisis. I don't know whether we're going to talk about financing here or how we might look at doing that, or should we do a workshop, I would suggest. But is there a potential of controlling costs? I mean, public safety is number one with right close to Main Street as you go down. But I also know as you get up to the area by Sanctuary, I believe there was discussions, that's a turn and then a turn. Longer term, they wanted to think about taking some land to make that not such a turn. Could we de-scope the project with TxDOT to take some of the cost out to make it more palatable? Do we have to do the full road? I mean, I got so many questions. I just feel like this needs a workshop.
Do you want me to answer questions
Yeah.
now? Or okay. So yes, there is potential to reduce scope. You do have to get that approved through TxDOT. Then you have to go through a transportation improvement plan amendment. And so in order to change your scope, which was done previously, you have to get on the agenda at K-Tempo, and the board has to approve a scope change. So currently, we can't just reduce scope and go forward with what we have funded. But yes, it is a potential, but it's still a 20% match.
Yeah, I got you.
And and your engineering fees are still your responsibility. But obviously, if we reduce the scope, engineering fees would come down also.
Now, I'm assuming they did that stopping point because that's where the county road begins.
Correct.
That's normal protocol. Okay. I don't know the question.
Again, for Mr. Thomas, my conversation with TxDOT, Daniel Davila, is that this project has to let by June of 2026. Whatever you do, these funds are set till that date, or
and then you lose them. That's
you
correct.
lose them.
Yeah, they've extended the deadline on this one a few times, and so yes, y'all are at a point where I think you have to make a decision what you're going to do in order for there to be time to design and bid the project. Because right now we've been on hold for probably over a year, or haven't done any work on this.
Right after we adopted the budget.
Okay.
Pending a petition. Mayor, do you want to speak on the 70,000 that we set aside?
Yeah, so when we did the budget for last year and the board approved it, it left us with basically $70,000 left over, and the plan was to move that $70,000 into an interest sinking fund to be able to issue debt for projects like this, and then use that $70,000 to pay that bill for the year, and then do the same thing the next year.
And the bill would have been interest only for 3 years, while we build up funds to make the principal payments.
Yeah.
It was a Band-Aid approach to keep this project going.
So we did have the money in the previous budget allocated for that, and no, we don't. Do you have anything?
Yeah.
Alderman McDonald?
Yes. Thank you for explaining a lot of this detailed stuff that needed to be explained. So I generalized question when it comes to K-Tempo and asking for adjustments, things of that nature. From your professional standpoint, first and foremost, I am under the presumption that everything is economy of scale. So in other words, I'm just picking a number. If we drop $250,000 off the overall cost of the project, we reduce our side by 20% of that conversation, which is $50,000 in simple terms. Okay. The next part is based on your professional understanding. If we go to K-Tempo and say we want to do this thing, what is the typical turnaround time from the moment we say go to the moment that typically they respond back with a yes or a no? That's my first question.
So it depends on their meeting schedule when they meet and can vote
Mr. Reed,
monthly.
can you answer this question, please, sir?
That'd be great.
Depends on the meeting schedule. It's normally about a 90-day process. Has to go through public comment, has to go through the fifth amendment process.
Right.
So faster they're going to get it done in 90 days.
And that's at the best case scenario.
That's the best case scenario.
And that's if everybody agrees and it looks good the first time.
If I may expand upon that from
Yes.
this division, the rest of the region is waiting for y'all next decision. The region is not going to let these funds lapse, and they've been waiting 5 years. And so K-Tempo is very eager to help you make this project a reality, because otherwise they're going to sweep the funds and give them to someone else to read. So the reason you're on a deadline for next letting schedule is those funds are discretionary funds for the region that were awarded to Salado that are going to expire if we don't let them do a project by that day.
Mm-hmm.
Understood.
And so I don't think there would be any pushback from K-Tempo. I don't want to speak for K-Tempo, but if you came back to them and said, we want to cut the scope in half, and we want to go from this term 9 to this term 9, I think they'd say, go, let's get less, so that we can get these monies to come. So I don't anticipate any pushback at all.
And honestly, it's not fair for us to expect K-Tempo to continue to put this on hold when there are other communities that need this money, and they have the money for the matching funds in order to get this done. And it's that's a lot of money to be sitting on the table and you're just sitting there looking at it and can't touch it. So give it to somebody else if we're not going to use it.
That's the standard for federal grants and state grants. That's pretty much the standard protocol anyway. I understand that.
Well,
and thank you for that answer, Mr. Reed. But in short version, that answers the rest of my questions, and thank you, sir.
Okay. So the question to the board is, if you do that, how do we pay MRB's engineering fees for the next 3 months or so, and then front the money when you have no reserves, which is why it's on the agenda.
And we're working.
You have no bond rating, which means that whatever loans you go out for will be at the highest interest rates. And because you have no bond rating, you cannot guarantee it with ad valorem. If you don't know what's going to happen in the next budget cycle, you may actually borrow money you may not be able to pay back.
Which leads me to that question. In theory, in simple terminology, and I'm speaking probably a little out of turn, we're fundamentally almost insolvent at this point in time based on this functional cost of this project.
The mayor can answer that because he's looked at the budget.
There you go. I'll let you answer that question then.
I think I already did.
Yeah.
The answer is yeah.
So basically, we're here tonight just to release it, since we can't afford it.
You have to make that decision based
Yeah.
on the outcome. And there's no way to pay MRB.
Right.
We have scaled everything back. And you can't front it unless you go borrow money, and that will place you in jeopardy.
Right.
And I say we scaled back. We went and cut cleaning services just to save $4,800 a year. And there was some other stuff that was kind of minor in the big scheme of things, but a dollar's a dollar, and you got to save it wherever you can. So we have scaled back as much as we can, and still are in a I think with all the things on the table, looking at it, I think we got to around if we can pull some of these things back, bring it down from a $200,000 deficit to around 60. But we're looking at see what we need to do with PD's vehicles, and then figure it out from there. So we've got some discussion. We'll bring it down from a negative 200,000 to a negative 60,000. Still doesn't put us in a position to pay MRB. for the engineering and for more to continue with this project and in order to get this thing let by June of next year.
Well, yeah, the total
489,500.
engineering is 489.5 that seems remaining. Now, some of that is an environmental company. I guess just a small portion of that, but yeah. 489,500. That was my estimate. I mean, it's not, I mean, that's just the best estimate that I have at this point.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Mayor, for the time.
Yeah, good.
Manny, why is this project only for Royal Street? How was that road selected for this?
That would be,
As opposed to any other torn up road in this village, for example?
So I wasn't y'all's engineer when this road was selected. I did bring the packet. So basically what happens, and Jim could jump in if you want to, but, okay.
Basically, you have on-system and off-system roads, and the only roads that are eligible for this funding are roads that are owned by TxDOT. And so you can't use it on an off-system roadway. And if the on-system roads, I don't have the map in front of me, but it's basically Main Street and Royal Street, and the farm to markets north and south of town. And so the city nominated this road as their project that they wanted to go forward. There are probably roads in your city, in your village that are in worse shape,
That aren't TxDOT
but
roads.
they're not TxDOT
I understand.
on roads and they're not eligible.
Yeah, I understand your answer. Thank you. Do you happen to know if TxDOT has any discretionary funding that could help us with bridging some of these gaps that we're having in regard to?
Off the top of my head, there are 4 avenues you could go forward with, 3 or 4. That would be a discussion of how much risk you're willing to take. I will say that, and this is not a threat, I just want you to understand the environment in which you're making this decision. If you turn back this money, the village will probably not get another grant of this magnitude from K Tempo for 6 to 10. Just because it'll be used to default on the project. And so if I were in your shoes, of course you gotta listen to the money and you gotta make those hard decisions, but there's the state infrastructure bank, which helps small communities. I don't know what all the details are, but it is eligible for PS&E, plant inspection engineering. It is eligible for right-of-way costs, max costs. You're kind of running out of time, but you could do a public-private partnership with property owners along Royal Street that will benefit from this improvement, to where they might pony up the money in exchange for a future tax abatement, where you can push this can down the road. But you gotta have that meeting pretty quick and get some legal people involved and decide how much that will be like reality. I don't know why your bond rating is where it is. I'm not that knowledgeable on it, but the city always has the ability to either issue debt or still acquire debt. You're gonna have to make that decision whether that's prudent or not. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I will say that even though the project lets if you get to that finish line in June of next year, you're not gonna write a check. You're gonna write a check to the engineering right away, but you're not gonna write a check to TxDOT on day 1. You're gonna write a check for part of it, and it's gonna take 18 months for it to get built, 2 years. TxDOT's gonna tell you 18 months, but you know, there are light years and TxDOT years and dollar years. So it's probably more like 2.5 years that it's going to take to build that project. So that would spread out your exposure if you wanted to try and make this happen. And then the final one, and again, the county's going to throw a rock at me, but the county wants to see you do well. Maybe they help the cash flow. Maybe that could be an interlocal agreement. I don't know. But unless you have those conversations, so those are the 4 options that I see.
Thank you very much.
Another thing I want to add from a funding standpoint, with the budget that we adopted last year, prior to the rollback being approved, even at that level, before we have to pay back almost $500,000, you're still looking at another 2 to 3 years to even get ourselves into a good financial, or at least a decent financial position at that rate. With this rollback and us having to pay back almost $500,000, it's gonna be a lot longer than 2 to 3 years. So, again, if there's some funds available out there that we can look at to do what we need to do, but I think I would recommend that we maybe table this for a month. Let's have some more conversations with K-Tempo, TxDOT, Bell County, whoever we need to talk to, and see if we can come up with some more money. I think it would be short-sighted at this point to make it, because I think there's a lot of questions amongst the board. And let's get some answers to those questions before we make this decision.
It's a lot of money we don't have, but there are. And it's a shot in the dark. So yeah. I think the big thing I'm hearing is we can't perform, if we can't find a way to make it happen, and these opportunities go away, that's just business. That's just normal day-to-day business.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't take care of it when people don't like doing business. I have a problem with that. I don't know how to help it tonight.
Mm-hmm. And Christmas is still 5 months away. So
right.
Yeah, Santa Claus is not going to give it to us.
Can I add one thing?
Yes, sir.
So the numbers I reported when we're talking about timing, on engineering fees, there's probably about $87,000 between now and letting. The other is during construction. The construction observation, construction admin, and grant services would be during construction. So just to give you more information.
So it's not all at once. It's spread out, is what you're basically saying.
Right. Yes. The $489,000, the majority of that is actually people on site and, making sure that the grant is done and that the construction admin is done. So it's in the future also. But, I mean, I don't know y'all's time on it.
Those last three things that you mentioned, sir, can you repeat those again, please?
So construction observation, which is your personnel on site to make sure it's, okay, is $187,200 for 4 hours a day for 18 months. Your construction admin is $154,800, which is 10 hours a week for 18 months.
Yes, sir.
And then grant services. So grants, they actually have to close the project out, was based on an estimate based on 5 hours a week for 20 months. Because after the project is over, they still have to close out the grant.
I understand that more than I probably should. I get that part. Okay, so I understand the value of that thing. I just needed to take a little more detail on the cost analysis on those last three. Thank you, sir.
And Alderman, that's based on 18 months.
It's on 18 months, though.
That is based on 18 months, yes.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Del Rosa. Thank you.
Do I understand we're going to just table this, or are we
That's
going
up to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion. I'd like to make a motion that we
Hold
table.
on, we're not there yet.
Not there yet?
Any other questions for Mr. Thomas?
No.
Oh, okay, appreciate you.
I'm coming up to the next one. You want me to stay here or go sit down?
Well, I need to open this up to public comments. Any public comments on this?
Just to lighten your load a little bit, I know that at one point, given your great negotiating skills, Mayor Henry, at one point, the sanctuary was going to give us $1 million for Royal Street because they wanted that road fixed up, and they realized all their trucks going up and down that hill were wrecking the road. And that was a part of a deal that was probably never signed, never filed, never anything, but it was spoken out loud, and it's worth discussing with them. I'm beginning to see, I'm glad that I withdrew as an alderman candidate. And I'm sorry about this mess, but hey, it is what it is if we don't have the money to pay for things. I know you have to pay the sanctuary money, tax rebates back. It's worth discussing with them. They wanted that road fixed up, and I know they promised $1 million, so at least a phone call before you make decisions. But also about not getting any more money for 6 years, I disagree with that idea. We gave away a $300 and some thousand path on Royal Street because that was way back when Skip was mayor and we had a female village manager. They couldn't get the land everybody to agree to things, and they lost, I don't know, $365,000. But they come back. They'll come back to us if we can hold our head above water long enough. If not, I'm beginning to see the advantageous idea of becoming an unincorporated place again and having our gentleman from Bell County taking over and fixing our road for us, but like I know he could do. So there's always that possibility too. Thank you.
And I know you said, that they said it out loud, they're gonna give us $1 million. Well, I just mentioned Santa Claus out loud, and I hate to break it to everybody in this room, but he's not real, in case you didn't know. Well, you got something? Come on up.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your service. I appreciate it. And I'm going to say, first of all, I am so glad I'm not on the board right now. It's going to be some tough decisions to be made. But I was thinking about that project. Most of the most dangerous part for our village and our visitors and pedestrians is going to be from Main Street to Center Circle. Is that right?
Yeah.
What if we limit it to that point only? And that's where all the tourist attractions are, all the places for music and all that are. There's nothing past there. It's all residential or the church property. So I'm just suggesting that would cut a lot of money off the deal, probably 40%. So anyway, that's all I got to say.
Thanks, sir. Good point.
I want to point out what's the obvious elephant in the room nobody wants to speak about. We cut taxes year after year with all these projects pending. They're giving you 80% of the value of what you're trying to purchase. And as a community, we voted to thumb our nose at it. Think about it. We voted the money that we're paying back could gone a long way to fix this problem. I don't blame Sitcog for saying, to heck with y'all, we've been dealing with you for years. This isn't the only project that screwed up. Everything that has happened for the previous 15 years on this council has been behind the scenes, backstabbing, undermining people's authority to do anything, and not wanting to pay your way. If somebody came to me and said, hey, I'll sell you a ranch, you put up $200,000 and I'll put up $800,000 and it'll be yours. What's wrong with all these intelligent people supposedly in this town? I've been talked down to by a lot of them. We had the opportunity for years. People have stood up here for years and said, something's wrong, there's corruption going on. Y'all aren't the problem. Y'all did not create this. You've inherited it. But it's just like on the Facebook page where they're talking about, he's bragging about he won this tax rollback. They cut the taxes terribly for 5 years, and so we gave away any money we had, plus we squandered other money, and it's dumped on the city manager and the mayor and y'all now to pick up a train wreck. These smart people in this community have done it to themselves. They have. They've talked about, we'll show them, we'll do this, we'll do that. It was absolutely unconscionable that nobody ever put in there on the Facebook page saying, what are we going to do about paying for these projects? Everybody just blindly looked at, let's cut the taxes, and voted it in, and we've cut our nose off to spite our face. It's pretty sickening. Y'all are stuck with it. I feel bad for you. But, if Manny hadn't got in here and researched how bad it was, and there's numerous, I told the mayor when he was going to be an alderman how corrupt things were for our city manager from his previous employment. We all knew that. We didn't look at it. We lived with it. Now we're having to pay the piper.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Come on down.
Scott Hamilton, 1213 Logan Boulevard. I want to just challenge the idea of cutting the scope of this project. That's a 1 mile section of road from Smith Branch to Main Street. You can't afford, if the village can't afford a half a mile, it can't afford a half a mile right now. It can't afford a full mile either. I live right there at Royal and Smith Branch. Several of our young families do in Drake's Landing. We can't walk with our children to Barrow Brewing right now, not because of Center Circle to Barrow, but because of Smith Branch to Center Circle, right? You can't walk with young children right there. Additionally, that 90 at the Methodist Church and the 90 at Smith Branch are both falling apart too, right? So just cutting that scope, I think, is a little short-sighted. It like gets you a project, but you didn't really fix the problem, or at least not the whole problem. So I just want to challenge cutting scope. If you're going to look for additional ways to find this funding, don't look for $250,000. Look for $500,000 and do the full project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just quickly, on behalf of K-Tempo, tell you that we're going to work with you any way we can. I don't mean to be threatening in any way, shape, or form. We want to be partners with you. You're a member of the COG. You have been forever. Put us at a table with you. Let us convene people to help you any way we can on this or any other issue. You know, heck, don't give up grants that you can't cash flow right now. Let's talk about if we can help you cash flow it. Let's talk about if we can help you find resources to cash flow it. If I know the state of Texas is backing your project, I might be able to get my board to help. I don't know that, but I don't know until I know that you all are in it, that that's what you want. And so the COG here is a resource for you. We're not going to thumb our nose at you either way. If you make a decision that's in the best interest of your citizens and you can't do it right now, we're going to help you any way we can anyway. It just makes it more difficult when you're looking at the 5th year of a project that's kind of been hanging on for a while. But there are other opportunities. We can advocate for you in the long-range plan, see how your project would score with traditional funding. We can get you engaged at K-Tempo or any other of our agencies that are working with you. But, you know, the offer still stands. If you want us in the room to help, we're here to help. So just reach out. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the good thing is we didn't, you know, in the past we did have a seat at the table for SitCog and K-Tempo. The issue is we didn't show up to eat. And I think I looked at it before I got on SitCog's executive committee and K-Tempo's technical advisory committee. In 3 years, we made 5 meetings, and these meetings are once a month, and that is not acceptable. And I think that's why, you know, now we have a seat at that table, and it's a voting seat. And so I think that we've got Commissioner Whitson, Mr. Reed, myself. We're all on those same boards, and I think that this is something that we can continue discussions, and as long as they're willing to try to find any sort of help that we can get, I think it's at least we have a responsibility, I think, to at least continue those conversations until we've exhausted all avenues of possibilities. But ultimately, that's going to be up to you guys. So you got something? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I don't know if Jim was going to be here tonight, so I'm here for K-Tempo and SitCog and certainly Salado. And I want to reiterate what he said, and I appreciate him being here because the 911 system is meant for us to get state dollars here local and us control those local dollars. The state sends a lot of things down to us, the county and cities, to have to pay for all the time. And we only can pay for that with sales tax and property tax dollars. So when we get opportunity to find money from the state level, who had a $24 billion surplus this year, we need to get that money. That road is not going to fix itself. If you don't do it now, you may not be able to do it ever on your own dime. And it's going to be harder to get TxDOT funds in the future to get that. I know it's a big lift right now, and I don't know the whole solution to this, but I need you guys to do everything you can to get this money through K-Tempo. The fact that you're on that board and when you took over as mayor and Manny got here, I called both of you and said, I need you on SITCOG and I need you on K-Tempo board. And the reason for that is the growth in Bell County is coming from that direction. And Killeen has been the growth center for 20 years, 30 years now. Salado is the growth center of Bell County. And there are going to be thousands more people driving up and down Main Street here, whether you like it or not, whether you try to stop it or not, you can't. That growth, we've seen it in Travis County, we've seen it in Williamson County, and like it or not, I mean, I'm a country boy. I like the country and I like this small hometown feel. And you can manage your village limits, but you cannot manage anything outside of those village limits. Neither can the county, because we operate under state law. So these developments that are coming to 14,000 homes on Solano Ranch Road are going to drive on Rural Street in a matter of 3-4 years. And if you can't get TxDOT funding for the next 4, 5, 6, 10 years, that's bad. So that's why Jim is saying we will do everything we can to try to help y'all get that. No promises, not Santa Claus either. But please don't make a rash decision tonight. Let's sit down, let's talk about that. The county is with you, because anything that goes wrong with the Village of Salado goes wrong with Bell County too. And we're looking at trying to figure out how to build roads all around you right now on a 2-cent road and bridge tax. That money ain't gonna do it either. But the fact of the matter is, we've got to build infrastructure here or this place will become unsafe. And the roads that we have that are not meant to handle that traffic, that's why you're doing a 2-inch asphalt overlay through there, because Amazon trucks are heavier now. You're delivering to businesses. Hopefully you get a bunch of businesses up and down through there that need trucks to deliver to them. When that occurs, those roads are just going to wear out faster. And the road that you've got right now is not going to last much longer. And you're still going to have to fix it, or you're going to have a dirt road rolling through there, and that's not going to be good for anybody. So please, please, please think about this, and let's get together and put our heads together and figure out how we get this done.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Del Rosa, you got anything else you want to add?
No, sir.
Any more questions from the board? Y'all good? All right, I'll open the floor for motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we table this until we can find further information to potentially fund this project from this village through partnership.
Okay. Okay. Motion made by Alderman McDonald to table pending further discussions.
Second it.
Seconded by Alderman Dunch. Any further discussion?
What is our final deadline? What is the drop dead date to say?
Well, that would be more of a question for Mr. Thomas, because they have to design whatever you approve.
Right.
And their design.
Well, I'm just giving us how far do we have to go? Do we
Yeah,
have
I don't-
months to go?
Yeah.
Do we have 2 months to go?
I know there's already a motion on the table, but I would urge you to maybe amend the motion to let's set a timeline to come back to the dice and have this conversation, whether it be 30 days or 60 days, whatever that is. Let's not move this thing into perpetuity.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. I would like to add, Mayor, if we could, to that motion, if now or if after this is processed, I would like to have an opportunity to say and include in the motion the ability to have a workshop immediately, as soon as possible, and invite the powers to be from SITCOG and the engineering office, and sit down in this room and see where we go. I'm encouraged from the standpoint of what Mr. Whitson said and what Mr. Reed said, and before I throw the towel in on it, I'd like to get one more good look at it. With all due respect to all the work that y'all put into it, maybe right here at the 11th hour is just the last gasp effort, but I think it's worthwhile. I think it's a worthy project for the town, and I don't want to just be part of saying I quit right now. So I do thank you for everything y'all have done so far. I'd just like to, based off of what I've heard tonight, have an opportunity to really push financing and support, search for some other opportunities and see what they may be able to help us with. So,
okay, thank you. Thomas, you got.
So if we have to let by July of 26, that means we have to advertise at least 3 weeks before that, usually give it a month. So that would be June of 26. TxDOT ranges 2 to 3 months of review from 100%, well, sorry, it's not total review, but to get all the federal approvals to go to letting. So that's what? So April would have, it would 100% would have to be done by April. So I could probably expedite design to 4 months. That is pushing it, like pushing it. And I got to have TxDOT join the board to get me my reviews, because I have to take my we have our 30% review from them. I have to take a 60% review to them, and I have to take a 95% review to them. They require that. And so generally, it's about a month between the time I turn in plans to I get comments. So I would need their help to make that happen. But that is pushing, getting this thing out the door and done. So if you're 4 months before April, what does that put you into?
December,
kind of the end of this year. Obviously, you know, to have a normal design time frame helps with quality. The more you push me on time, the more I have to do quickly, as opposed to, you know, I don't know if you've ever heard the triangle of time, money, and quality. You sacrifice one, you know, you emphasize one, it's going to sacrifice something else. So.
And if you push this back to, from April, go back 4 months, let's say January, December, you're in the middle of the holidays. The government does not work quickly. They like to take their time off during the holidays. So you may submit your stuff to them expecting a 30 or 90 day, 60, 90 day turnaround. They're all out on vacation because it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, now we're going into the new year. So you're really looking at, you need to have this done by probably October, September.
Yes, that's probably true. I do have great connections with TxDOT, with the local governments that have helped me expedite before. Now, it has to be within reason. I might get them down to 2 weeks.
4 hours yesterday.
What's that?
I got a permit in 4 hours from the state yesterday.
Exactly.
I'll call them for you.
You know, I used to work for TxDOT, so I do still have connections, and I can't do it on every project, obviously, but there are, you know, I want to help you guys. I want to work with you, just like Bell County, just like the COG, to make this happen. So we will expedite and do what we can to get it done for you guys. We will not miss the deadline.
Okay, thank you. So I think what I'm hearing is Alderman Lassiter is requesting that you amend your motion, and let's put a.
I concur with that amendment.
Which is what? What's the amendment?
The amendment would be that we table this with a workshop to be scheduled by the mayor with all the parties involved necessary. And I would like to see this with reason, unless somebody tells me no, within the next 30 days max from this calendar date that we're making this decision today.
That doesn't seem like an achievable goal, Manning. What do you think? We're right in the middle of the budget.
I'm waiting for the no to tell me what the right achievable goal is. I'll change the time, but not
maybe
period.
60 days.
You need 60 days, Mayor.
Okay, then 60
minimum
days,
2 months.
Mayor.
Yeah.
I'll go 60 days. I'll take
so the motion is
advice.
60 days. It comes back to here regular Board of Aldermen for consideration.
Yes, Mayor.
Because we will be scheduling budget workshops in the months of July and August.
Yep.
And we generally hold those on the off Thursdays, right? The second and fourth Thursdays of the month. So, well, in these groups, we'll have to figure out exactly what they can and cannot do, have some type of vetting of these discussions, and then look at your budget that we need to amend so we can start setting the next fiscal year's budget.
Mr. Thomas, if we come back and deliberate on this, and that would be August. Does that give you enough time, based on the timeline that I just talked about, with through the holidays and all that, for you to be able to submit this thing to the state for approval without compromising quality and the things that you just discussed? If we come back here in August, sir? If we come back in August here and deliberate this at that time after having discussions, does that give you enough time to do what you need to do and submit that request to the state?
I can make it happen.
Okay.
We can make it happen quicker than that. We'll put that. We're gonna.
Without compromising the three things that you just talked about. Okay. All right.
But it looks like we can't go beyond October 1. The letting is not July, June.
Yeah.
Of 2026.
Okay.
So to get past the Thanksgiving and the Christmas, you got to be hitting it no later than October 1st.
Okay. Motion was amended by Alderman McDonald to revisit this in approximately 60 days with some discussions in between that. That's his amended motion. And then Alderman Dunch seconded the original motion. Mr. Dunch, I'll second that also. Okay. Any further discussion? Question called by Mayor Pro Tem Hurst. All in favor of tabling this for 60 days, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Okay, table it for 60 days, Mr. Del Rosa, 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. But stand by, we got another one for you. F, discussion and possible action on federal appropriations grant number B, TAC 24, TAC CP, TAC TX, TAC 2053, known as the West Village Road Development Project, and grant award of $5,500,000. Who's that?
Okay, yeah, let me start. This is the West Village Road, what do they call it here? Development Project. Yeah, it's West Village Road Development Project. That is the official name by the Housing and Urban Development. It's an award that was granted. There's the award letter, August of last year. It's about the 5th page in, August 28th. You have 7 years, but you don't. Okay, so what's going now is, if you saw the first email, you saw May 29th date. I've asked for an extension. It was granted to June 20th to start submitting the package submittal. A lot of the documents, there's a lot of steps to be taken between now and the award, that when the actual funding comes. You front all monies. It is $5.5 million. Okay? Had a conversation with Mr. Solomon Thomas probably 3-4 months ago. The price was upwards of over $9 million, with the engineering over $1 million, and he'll run those numbers by you. There is no local match. As of yesterday, and I showed this email to Mr. Thomas, June 5th, 4:07 p.m., the representative with the Housing and Urban Development. Basically, the project was listed as the joint explanatory statement, JES, in the congressional record for this grant. Meaning that, I said, can I change the scope? If there's no local match, can I do less? The easiest answer is no. You can try to massage it, but you need to stay within the scope that was approved on. So in other words, I was hoping, well, if I got 5.5, can I do something? Well, I just had a lot. So Mr. Thomas can go over what the scope was when it was submitted. I can't recall the year that you went, but it was several years ago. I think it was like 2021, 2022. Okay, during COVID. So construction costs, and you've got a wastewater line that some portions from the western side of West Village Road, and I think it crosses somewhere that would be now in conflict with your road widening. That's why Eagle Heights conveyed land about 40 feet along their eastern side for an 80-foot right-of-way that would go, and you don't have the right-of-way conveyed to you from the school district and some of the other properties outside of the village, but 80-foot right-of-way from Williams Road down to Thomas Arnold Road, right? A lot of road for a road that doesn't go anywhere, okay? You got residents on one side, and you might have commercial on the east side of West Village Road that backs up to the frontage road. So, and then you got the school district down there. So, gonna carry a lot of traffic on a very short road, 5.5 million, and I'm gonna ask Mr. Thomas to kind of walk you through what the numbers look like in the scope.
All right, I'll give you the background that I am familiar with. So we were approached by the village to put together a schematic somewhere around the end of 2021. And so basically do just a layout of what we can make happen here. The request was to do a parkway, so divided median, sidewalks, and then within that 80-foot of right-of-way that's on the north end of the project, make the road a pleasant appearance as opposed to just a straight shot like a runway, to look at, can we make this road a nice, gentle, curving road that is pleasing to the eye. You have trees, you have light posts and those kind of things, lighting. The request was to make it similar to Main Street with, curves in it. So we developed a schematic that was used to go ask for funds. So the original cost of the original estimate of the project was done pre-COVID. And so this is when costs were much, much lower. I looked at the construction cost index over from 2021 to 2024 when we redid the estimate for Manny, and it was I think 125% cost increase in general over that time for construction costs. And so pre-COVID to post-COVID, and then just as escalation has happened, the cost skyrocketed. The scope of the project, I haven't seen the grant yet, so I'm just I don't know. I think just like Jim was saying about the SITCOG money, K-Tempo money, have a detailed discussion of what scope could be reduced. So there is, because we were asked to do pedestrian lighting, there is about $1 million of lighting in the project. There's sidewalks on both sides of the road, 2 6-foot sidewalks on both sides of the road. The sidewalks are $500,000. And so and then, we're talking about underground drainage. So I don't know what they consider the scope, meaning that we could go from a curb and gutter section potentially to, a section that has ditches, which reduces your costing. So there's ways to, the answer I don't have for you is what is allowable in the scope massage. This isn't a grant that, I have done before. It's a set aside program, is that right?
Yeah, I believe it is.
I think it's just like the congressman basically put money aside to do this project. He had money for requests from his constituents, and so I think we need to get information on what does massage mean. Because this was the request that came in that now is about $8 million of construction plus about $1 million of engineering fees, is, a very, very nice section of roadway. Very pretty, all the upgrades. So that's what that number is, all the upgrades.
How long, so from Thomas Arnold to Williams Road?
Right.
What's the distance on that?
Did not bring that with me.
It's not even a mile, I don't think.
I don't think so. No, I think is it 3/4, somewhere around there?
3/4, yeah.
My point is, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Why do we need scenic curves on a 3/4 mile stretch of? People want to get their kids to school, back from school, and want to go to McDonald's or wherever else is going to be over there. This curvy, it sounds great, but why do we need that?
When you are driving, it is appealing to not just, visually. But again, it's an upgrade. It's not a requirement. It's not a necessity. But yes, it is. If you go and you drive, some of the appeal of country roads, is that you're not just looking at a road the whole way.
Does it slow traffic?
Yes.
Okay.
So, which is also a transportation benefit. To, the medians, things on the side, all those things are traffic calming, which does benefit, slowing vehicles down. Now, if you're in a financial crunch, I don't know if the slowing down of that traffic is enough to consider it's a substantial cost of what this fully upgraded roadway is.
But this is fully covered, or do we still have to come up with 20%? I'm a little lost on that part.
There's no local match.
There's none. That's okay. So it's okay.
Manny, in what they sent you, is it cover engineering or is it just construction, or do you know?
I think it's just construction, from what I understood.
Okay. I mean, if you send me what they sent you, I can do some.
Yeah.
Just look into it or you contact them. But
The congressional.
I think it would be good to know, does the 5.5 cover engineering fees or not? And, what would they consider a scope change and just, making the project fit the budget, but maintaining the scope?
So how did we get this grant again? I mean, you said it was a congressional allocation somehow?
It's a federal
at what level was this?
Well,
It sounds like there's some.
Yeah.
Congressman
hefty-
Carter's office reached out to Judge Blackburn.
Okay.
And said, I got money we need to spend, because they weren't getting any response from Salado. Commissioner Whitson put him in contact, and then called previous leadership. They started having those conversations and almost missed the deadline on this, and he's the one that pushed for it to get it pushed through and to give some, I guess, some advice on where else to pull some more funding from and that kind of thing. So it started out with Congressman Carter's office calling Judge Blackburn, saying, because some of that area over there is in the county, and that's how they got involved, and then eventually we got involved in it. Yeah. Cool. Are you done, Mr. Thomas?
If y'all have any other questions, whatever y'all
You have questions?
need from me.
Mr. Laster,
I
you
can
have
come
any
back
questions?
up if you need me to.
Okay.
This money's federal money that, because of John Carter's seniority, he has a pretty good amount of discretionary funds for specific projects. This one was for a road project, and it was for safety, particularly around school zones. Same thing I said about Royal. West Village is not going to last long. The amount of traffic that's going on it now and the type of road that it was, just a little old chip seal county road for a long time. The last time I leveled up and chip sealed West Village was about 2 years ago, and I'm having to do it every 2 years. And 2 years ago, while part of that road belongs to the village, I just had my guys go ahead and do the whole thing real quick. We got in, got out, and went, oops, we got over our line a little bit so that we could get it safe, because there were problems with the school zones on the south end particularly, just because of the volume of traffic. That volume of traffic, if you've not dropped kids off at the schools down there, you may not know, but it takes police assets, a lot of time and energy to direct traffic down there. So that's more money out of your pocket. And that road is deteriorating very, very rapidly because of the amount of traffic there. I believe, Manny, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you have to front that $5.5 million, and then it's reimbursed from the feds, correct?
That is correct.
So you're going to have to get $5.5 million if you fix the scope or whatever.
Go big or go home.
And I believe that is completely out of your reach at this point in time. But I do believe also the fact that that is partly a county road, it gives me more latitude as your precinct commissioner to be able to fund some of those things. Now, I don't have $5.5 million laying around either, but we can work together on this much easier than we can on a road that's completely in your system and not in mine. I'm gonna caution you the same thing I said before. You have multiple years yet. I couldn't quite hear you. I think you were explaining 7. Okay, I couldn't hear you in the back. It wasn't over the microphone very well. But you have multiple years to not only plan but build this project. West Village also, and the reason that design was done was because the school district wanted it, the village wanted it, and the county wanted it. And so we went for a very preliminary, nice little, let's see what that looks like, and let's try to make it look like Main Street, so that you would have another capacity to put commercial businesses in there, which Salado desperately needs for tax base and sales tax generation. And so that's why I didn't remember it being 80 foot, but I believe you. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be 80 foot wide, but it does certainly need sidewalks for school, kids to get up and down between the schools. And there's a lot of housing development going over there. It's going to continue to develop out west of town. We've got several others trying to come in on the west side of town. So that road is just going to get busier every day. If you don't do something with it now, and by something I mean build it heavy enough to where it will last, it will fall apart and you won't have the funds to do it later any more than you do now. So again, don't have a silver bullet answer for any of this, but I really, really, really want to caution y'all to not pull the trigger on this just because King's X we're out without having some more discussions. And I think you can easily or reasonably lump this in with your other workshop and let's have all these discussions kind of at once and see what our options are in order to make sure we don't throw away $5.5 million or $2 million or whatever when that money's coming from somewhere else. It doesn't have to come out of local taxpayers' pocket. If you don't utilize that money, I think in a very short term, it is going to come out of the local taxpayers' pocket just to keep the road chip sealed, much less built properly and safely. And there are also, through K-Tempo, there are different categories of funds. One of those categories of funds is for walkability and trails and all that. You've got a couple of folks, Katie was here earlier, Katie's on the committee for the Trails Committee on K-Tempo as well. So we've got representation from Salado for that reason also. So if the scope might be able to be changed and you could take the sidewalks out and get K-Tempo funds to do the sidewalks, maybe we whittle that down to less than $5.5 million. I don't know. There's just a lot of options out there. And I don't want Salado to operate in a vacuum. We're here to help, and we need to have more discussions about this to utilize these things before we just go, we're broke, King's X can't help it. Because sooner or later, and I think it's going to be much sooner on your road, you're going to have to pay for something, even if it's the mayor filling potholes twice as often as he does now, because that road's just going to get worse. And I don't want to see you let that go.
So when you might need to answer this, but like the reimbursement, is it the reimbursement at the very end and you have to submit it all in, or can you phase it at different phases where we might need $2 million and then you get a reimbursement and then that fund?
I've never done one of these before, so I don't know. Andy probably knows better than me.
It can be phased. Okay.
So then if it's phased, but you still don't want to take 5 years to phase it. You know, you're still probably going to build it in about 18 months to 2 years total. But there are things that we can do up front. I mean, you've got to get right away, obviously. The other reason I think that there was a bend in that road is because there were some issues with right away, but I think that has been corrected since that northern section of it, when y'all annexed that housing development there, they gave you a good bit of right away that we weren't sure we were going to get before. And you're going to have D.R. Horton Homes up there with 200 employees and everybody else in the state coming in and out of there going talking to them. The traffic is going to be horrendous on West Village and Wade. So don't let it go. Don't let it pass. Yes, sir.
So on the right of way, you have reserved all the right of way on the majority of the north end with that development. So you have all that right of way. And so in our schematic, obviously we're not in detailed design. We, besides at the school, which the school in discussions with them, once the thing will donate the right of way, shouldn't be a cost there. There's a very small piece that the right of way gets very tight, which would be difficult to fit the typical section in, without detailed design. I don't know for sure that we could make it happen without that right of way, but I would say there's a possibility you don't have to require any right of way besides the donation of the school.
Oh, Mr. Sandor, do you have any questions? Alderman Lassiter. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Hurst. No question. Alderman Dodge.
No question.
Alderman McDonald.
1.2 miles is the straight line distance between Thomas Arnold and West Village through West Village Road. That's the actual straight line distance. Just want to share that out loud.
Really?
1.2. Straight line distance. No other questions, man.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Rosa?
Yep, so if we table this, I'm going to continue submitting the requirements. I mean, there's a lot of pre-work that needs to be done, some environmental, some other engineering reports that need to be submitted before we ever let out. So, and that's what they're asking there, why they're starting now. In other words, you can, as long as you're done by year 7, which is the construction the last 2 years, but a lot of the preliminary work, they don't want you sitting on it. There's no patience for that. Start submitting. These dates are set. You see the May 29th, they give it to June 20th.
Yeah.
Right? So in other words, they're
not playing anymore.
No, they do not.
Okay.
And I've got to meet a lot of compliance reporting for this. Time consuming, which generally are handled by engineers. Your cost.
Okay. All right. Any public comments on this item? Ms. Reynolds, we're going to get you a punch card so that you get a free one after the 5th.
At my table. Thank you. I believe Linda Reynolds, 1110 Mill Creek Drive. I believe somebody of this board or Manny, somebody needs to contact Congressman Carter. The previous federal administration passed a huge infrastructure bill, billions of dollars. The new administration immediately froze that. I don't know if your money is there anymore or not, but I know that many people in the government, working in the government, in sciences, health, for every place, are finding out they don't have the money they thought they had for their grant. So somebody needs to find out if, from Congressman Carter, if rather than you waste time fiddling around with this, find out if it's still there or has it been dumped, because things are getting dumped left and right. Thank you.
We would have been notified if it was dumped, correct? Mr. Yalosa?
Yes, sir. I spoke with the Housing and Urban Development representative that is managing this grant for us.
Okay.
The funds are still there.
Yeah.
Darlene Walsh, 1001 Mill Creek Drive, Salado. I believe if it's, I recall years ago, we did not take, we took in West Village Road to connect the schools, but we never took in around the curve where the vendor is on the across from McDonald's and in the Sonic. That part, I believe, is still in the county. And Mr. Whitson could verify that, but I believe that corner, that around there is still in the county. And so, and I know that when Crothers came in, we were at the meeting when the board took in, as Commissioner Whitson said, a good right-of-way section for future road. What they talked about was flipping West Village Road over to the west side. The sewer line was installed on the east side because that was the part that was in town, the east side. But the west side, at that time, the schools weren't even annexed yet. And so we didn't have any property on the west side until Crothers came in and they gave us that right of way, except for about, I think it's 3 homes along West Village Road that we to this date do not have right of way, and that would be dealt with by the county. But my thought is, we took in certain roads. Can we just give back to the county certain sections of roads? Just a thought. Just a thought. Think about it. Thank you.
Anybody else? If you want to.
So the school properties annexed into the school and the school put in, since I believe 2015, when the city annexed to the new property, it's a function of the law that I think the roadway still is that. So when the school annexed in everything along the school property, and then the brothers annexed in the subdivision, everything along the property becomes by function of law to the road.
We're not doing that.
Well, the middle is still in the county. So from the school property, the soccer field, both sides of the soccer field, is the school property.
Okay, I'm sorry. In the interest of time, I'm not gonna allow this back and forth here. If you wanna talk, you can do it out there. Anybody else have any questions?
No,
Mr. De La Rosa, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Then any more public comments? Nope, okay. I'll open it up for a moment.
To make a motion to include this in the last motion, but in the same time frame?
Okay, motion made by Alderman Dunst to
Further discussion?
piggyback the previous motion to table for a period of 60 days, pending more conversations and discussions and fact-finding missions. Second, taken by Alderman Sandor. Any further discussion? Question?
I do have a question. Will that still allow you to submit your compliances and stuff? We're
Yes.
holding off for 60 days?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna keep moving this if we're still moving
Okay.
forward. Yeah, I'm good.
All right, that's it. Sorry.
Question. Okay, question called by Mayor Pro Tem Hurst. All in favor of tabling for 60 days, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? That carries, Mr. De La Rosa, 5-0. G, discussion and possible action to approve ordinance number 2025, TAC 12, an ordinance of the Village of Salado, Texas, prohibiting the parking of all vehicles and trailers adjacent to the village lift station located at 111 Royal Street within the corporate limits of the Village of Salado, and providing for the following purpose: findings of fact, severability, repealer, effective date, and proper notice and meeting. Mr. Del Rosa.
Okay, some of you have already seen this ordinance prior. It had a description of just where the lift station was at. Now we actually noted it with the address of that lift station. This would prohibit any parking that blocks that lift station. It's got gates currently that face Royal Street, that faces west, so it'd be on the western side of the fenced-in area of the lift station, and also parking along the guardrail was included as part of a safety issue that Alderman McDonald brought to our attention. So, Mayor, you and I have we've received calls on weekends. You got one from a local business owner when the Drake's Landing lift station light was on. I get them at the Stagecoach Inn, and I get them on Church Street. And this is all in the last 3 weeks when we had the storms.
Yeah.
So to say that Royal Street lift station doesn't get alarms?
No, it does.
It does. So, and the other three have, and they occurred some of on the weekend. You called me on one of them, and I had another one. So, generally, if you don't pass the no parking, then we would just put up signage in front of the lift station to get in our right of way. If you block it and we come in, we're towing your vehicle. Simple as that. So this is, it's a little bit cleaner, and it relieves some of the concerns about parking along the guardrail, and we kind of cleaned some of the vegetation away because the aldermen, some of you seen people walking on the southern side of Royal Street along the guardrail. So to remove that concern is how we wrote this ordinance. So again, we made changes as recommended by the last Board of Aldermen. Any questions?
Alderman Sandor.
You talked about putting signs up, no parking, vehicle will be towed. That happens either way here, doesn't it?
If you're blocking it, yes. Yeah, cities don't generally issue ordinances when they're around facilities. We're regulated by the Public Utility Commission as a utility provider. You block our infrastructure, we can have it moved, towed. So the ordinance would just be your ordinance. It sets the parameters. You made that decision because of you trying to protect this asset, and then also for public safety. Quite honestly, we get calls that people are parked on the edge of the roadway, and it narrows Royal Street. The problem being is the way the state law is written, it's either 18 inches from the curb or edge of roadway, so they can. So when you have activities or events on Royal Street, you sometimes have difficulty getting large commercial vehicles, like a fire truck or something. And those are some of the photos that the alderman has shared with me, along with some of the others. Mayor, you and I got the photos, from a former alderman on College Hill, when they weren't parked parallel, they were parked facing in, over by, on that side, just east of the museum, which really narrow College Hill. So the recommendation is that you try to regulate parking by no parking areas, or you put up parallel parking only instead of perpendicular.
And the reason, to your question, the reason for adopting an ordinance to regulate this is because then it gives it teeth, and then PD can enforce it at that point. If we just have signs up, Yeah, if we just have signs up, it's just a sign. But if we have an ordinance in place, it gives us teeth that we can call PD, and then they do their thing. Otherwise, we don't have a leg to stand on, and we can't really enforce it.
It's parking on any side immediately adjacent to that fence line that is around that lift station. Is that a lift?
It's a lift station.
Lift station, yeah.
Center to a lift station.
Because if we get one of the Jacobs trucks come in there, they need about a 30-foot clearance to be able to get their equipment in there and do what they got to do. And I was standing over at Tex 28 one day across the street, and there was something going on over there. And there was things going on with local businesses there, and Jacobs was trying to get in there, and they were having to walk and go wherever their vehicle was parked and walk through cars to get into the lift station they needed to go do to fix whatever the issue was. And I didn't go over there and ask them what it was, but you could see that they were struggling to get in there.
What generally sets off the alarms is the fats, oil, and grease in these lift stations. So the high-level alert gets stuck in an on position, starts sending out signals, alerts to Jacobs, and then Jacobs calls me, or unless somebody sees the light on, or like Stagecoach, they actually heard the alarm going off and they called. So when they come in, they're not coming in on a pickup truck, they're coming on a utility truck. It's like cleaning out a septic system. And they need room to get in there, line up with those driveways so they can get into the wet wells.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, I get it. Alderman Lassiter?
We will thoroughly communicate that with the public here, that market on the weekend. We are aware of
We would be clearly marked with signage. The property owners in that area, I believe, all aware of it now, because they're aware of what we've been working on for months.
Yeah. And the reason for that is because the language was kind of wasn't really clear about where exactly they were talking about, and it did raise some concerns with some local business owners, and I understand that. So the direction was to take it back to our attorneys and have them clean the wording up,
okay,
make it specific to that address.
Okay, good. I'd like to see a map of it sometime if we could. This one didn't do much for me, but just have an idea or taped off or painted. See, I'd just like to see exactly how far it goes. But
like 30 feet, right? That's what we're looking for, 30 feet.
Yeah, we weren't going to take up that much. Remember, there's a utility pole. We were trying to limit it. I mean, we can angle a lens. These are just large trucks, and usually it happens when we have bad weather. Right. That's when these wet wells get full of inflow and infiltration, right? A lot of rainwater in our system, and these alarms start going off. I will send each one of you a Google Earth snapshot of where it's at, because once you see that lift station, then you've got a good idea of that, and then the guardrail just east of that, past a driveway entrance.
Because there's that one entrance towards the east, and then there's the guardrail. So you specified it through the guardrail, so you can't park in that whole section. Correct?
No, well, you shouldn't block any driveways. That's a violation of state law. So that's a whole different offense, and I don't need to put notice for that. What we're saying is no parking around that area, or if you block a driveway, well, the property owner that owns that driveway can certainly call it into the PD and have it removed.
I'm good. Go ahead.
What is the area that we're talking about? Is it 30 feet or not?
Yeah, we're looking at, like, from the gate where there's a fence that goes around that lift station. Basically a 30-foot clearance to the entrance of that from the east side, or I guess the west side of that, which is right there by Provecho. And there's a utility pole there, and then within a number of feet of that, there's a manhole cover. And it only extends to about there.
So the way the ordinance is written, it identifies the lift station, and then the placement of the signage will tell you from here this way, no parking.
So it's basically from the gate to 30 feet to the west, and then from the fence to the roadway. There's no parking there.
So 30 feet, effectively.
It's an approximation because we weren't going to go measure 30 feet and pinpoint it that exactly. So it's not the way ordinances are written. So it says, generally, just any city block, any city, no parking from here to here, and you'll see that it points arrows.
This was signage.
Signage. Exactly.
With tollways,
The reason I'm asking is because there are businesses there that need parking. And so I think it's reasonable to have a discussion about, if we're gonna talk about putting a sign in, how do we not know where the sign's gonna go?
We have an approximation because we've all been there. We've seen it multiple times. And we know where, and there is a driveway, as Alderman Dungeon said, just east of it. Anything west, I mean, I can't tell you from the front door of Provecho's utility pole, but I do know where that utility pole is in proximity to that, and that is where that gate is at.
We're talking about one parking space from, and I met with, I
30
went.
feet, that would be over 3 parking spaces, I could argue, but.
So I walked it, and went and showed because Miss May called me and asked me, can you come show me what we're talking about here? So I went and showed her, and she's like, oh, most people don't park there anyway. I have one employee who parks a golf cart kind of to the north, of the south of that utility pole, and she was like, well, yeah, it doesn't really affect anything. So it just keeps them away from that front gate.
Yeah.
Everybody else is parking to the west of that, and then the area right there in front of Tex 28 and the bookstore there, that little easement right there, it keeps people off of that. Same thing. I mean, it really needs to happen anyway because they park there, and part of the rear end of their vehicle is sticking out into the road.
Yeah, I see the problem all the time. I'm not arguing that there's definitely a problem. The argument is how we not to take it. I don't understand why we get all of that.
We can pull it up on, if we want to do it now, we'll pull it up
Make it more complicated.
on Google Earth right now and look at it.
Somewhere along the utility pole, but we don't know what the distance is from the utility pole back to the fence system, if that's the area that we need to protect, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I understand. So whatever that is.
Okay.
No parking in tollway zone.
Yeah, I don't know what the verbiage would be as far as,
Yeah, it'll be no parking tollway, so you towing, and it'll have arrows with pointing from where to where.
No question.
Mr. Dutch,
No question.
Alderman McDonald?
Just a response, if I may. 30 feet, 10 feet, whatever feet, I understand where you're going with this. What I'm making the statement is the area that we were discussing is the right-of-way, community right-of-way. It's not private parking by any other means. This is a conversation that's been ongoing, and I understand your point of view. But I just want to say out loud, it is a safety call, one, for travelers and pedestrians. It's a heavily traveled area. Two, it does impede if we need to do maintenance over there. It's not meant to chastise anybody who is parking there or businesses who are used to using that area. The fact of the matter is, we need to take care of all the community when it comes to access to this area, not just the local businesses that are just right there at that moment. That's my point of view on that. And I respect what you're saying, Alderman. But I'm also making a statement of, it's a safety call, one. It's also an access call, two, which are, to me, they're equally the same, especially for that area. So, again, here we go.
The area that we're looking at.
There's a manhole cover there, too, as well, by that pole for access for sewer, I believe.
Yes.
Not only right there, but also near that white car. You can see it in the shadow. Actually, yeah.
So after discussion at the last game, we we kind of concur that, okay, we would use that utility pole as the line of demarcation.
Right.
No, thank you, Mayor, and thank you. No further questions.
Any public comments on this item? No. Del, anything else to add?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll open it up for motion, please.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2025, TAC 12, as written.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Hurst to approve as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman McDonald. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question called by Mayor Pro Tem Hurst. All in favor of approving ordinance number 2025-12 as presented, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. And abstentions. That carries 5-0. Mr. Del Rosa. H, discussion of possible action nominating and appointing individuals to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, we need people to volunteer to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have 2 active board members. I think their terms may be nearing, the end. We were proposing an ordinance that would allow each elected official, except for the mayor. That has not, we've not had the public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission, but we only have 2 members. And when Alderman Lassiter became an alderman, he could not serve on the Planning and Zoning, so we do not have a functioning Planning and Zoning Commission. Okay, so you have Ms. Turnbow and Mr. Swint. Mr. Swint is the alternate, and Ms. Turnbow is the regular member of that. You can appoint up to 5. Some of the discussions, as a matter of fact, Alderman Graham served as an alternate, and really, it's kind of, you're in limbo, really. You don't get to vote unless there's not a quorum, or unless they let you kind of set it up with the group, which I'm okay with, but you certainly need at least a 5-member board. Those 5 members must reside within the village city limits. I've left you took a snippet of that section 2.2 out of that ordinance 2014-09. Prior to that, 2013-08 did allow for the appointment of commissioners living within the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. That is not the case today. So we would encourage, we did have somebody actually submitted. We found out that they actually lived outside of the city limits. We've had 1 or 2 others. As a matter of fact, I brought up Ms. Reynolds' name to Ms. Pence. I recall she said she wasn't going to be interested, but we now need to be moving. It's when she was, when the Alderman election was going. So I don't know if her interest is still there, but you need a full functioning board. And the volunteers that have a diverse background is what I generally recommend, is what I recommend them when we're revisiting the ordinance. You want folks that are, that the composition of the P&Z has variety. That way you can get a lot of different viewpoints.
Okay.
So, not expecting any real action this evening other than to make that encourage volunteers. We've been advertising for weeks now, and it's been, well, most either have not lived in town, just moved in town, or and we're trying to see exactly what you want to do.
And what on that proposed ordinance would be that each individual alderman, that would keep me out of it completely, would make their selection as to who they would like to see serve on that commission. Of course, at the will of the Board of Aldermen, they would have to approve. Mayor Pro Tem Hurst nominated somebody, the rest of the board would have to approve it, but it kind of keeps some things from happening that happened in the past, where people were kind of handpicked to do some things, and it all fell on really one person is the one who was following all that, and we're trying to eliminate that. That was the purpose of it. So, and I would still like to see that.
Yeah. And the whole idea, Mayor, each alderman would nominate a candidate. It would be, so the approval would be the entire body. If and they would run a 2-year term along with your term. That way they continue to be staggered. They can, the way it is currently, they can run up to 2 terms, so they can be there 4 years. So they must step down, and then they can always come back. That's the way it's currently set up. We've probably been allowing people to run beyond those 4 years, and the whole idea is the way these terms are set up, it's to continually get fresh people with fresh ideas on these advisory bodies.
Okay.
That's all I've got, Mayor.
Alderman Lasker? I don't know that we have the applicants right now.
There wasn't any. The discussion, the reason there's action is if you direct me to do something.
Yeah.
Annie, the advertising of it, you say that you've advertised it for 3 or so weeks. Have we exhausted all the other mediums to try and get some people to apply?
I'll let Ms. Pence answer that.
Okay.
What mediums, if you'll step up to what, he's asking where we sought out volunteers.
Mayor and Alderman, thank you. We've actually started putting this on social media, and then we've reached out to the past alderman, to, of course, the current alderman.
Okay.
Sir, you and I have had many conversations about this. We have received 2 applicants, but other than that, we've received a lot of applicants, but they're outside of the area. They're in the ETJ, which does not qualify because of the current ordinance. And we've been telling people, talk to your neighbors if you've got somebody that's interested. I was hoping that even maybe some of the candidates who actually didn't get elected might be interested in serving on P&Z. That's really a great starting point. And we've got a lot of plans to do. We've got the comprehensive plan that is way outdated, and we really need some forward thinking, that people have that future visionary, that's smart growth. So that's the update that I have for you.
We have 2 applications that are in now that are inside the limits of the city?
We do.
And looking for a total of 4 or 5, correct?
Well, we would like to give you a good pool of candidates to choose from.
Good.
Generally, when you have
that.
Advisory boards, if
Okay.
they don't submit resumes, they don't all come in. We tend to interview them during open meetings to see what their thoughts is.
Okay.
Right? And that's kind of where I was going with. They're your representative. Now, if you do it collectively, you find somebody, but if it is that alderman's nomination, that is his basically appointee from others, then you should have direct communication trying to pass on what you think that direction should be.
And we have 2.
We have Ms. Reynolds, 1, and then we have another gentleman, and we would like to get more. You've got open positions, and we were looking to do away with the alternate. We've only had 1, and it's difficult to really manage.
An alternate, correct? He
Yes,
still is.
He still is. Yes.
As an alternate. Okay. Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. We figure out what to do. I can make some calls. Maybe some of the others can too, and see if we can get some people involved. We certainly need it and need the help, and I hope that we can. And we checked to see if the existing planning commission members, you mentioned that they may be expiring soon, or they.
Yeah, so we looked at it several months back, and it's been a little while. I think yours would have come up in February of this year, February, March. I mean, so yeah, we looked at everybody, and we want to make sure that we're hitting those staggered terms, that we do a better job at tracking them.
Yes, okay.
I think the 2 current, Ms. Turnbow and Mr. Schwint, are both about to hit that 2-year mark.
Yeah, I believe so. But even if they are,
do 2 more years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Even though the ordinance says that they serve 2 terms, which is 4 years, under state law, they continue to stay until their replacements are appointed.
Right.
Which is how we default to that section.
Right. Okay. All right. Mr. Hurst?
No questions.
Done? No questions. I don't.
Mr. Del Rosa, we currently have an application process that we have standard currently, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Because I haven't opened up the public comments yet. We're discussing it. After we're done, I'll open up the public comments.
Okay. This is a generalized question. In the event that we are unable to, for all intents and purposes, fill these positions currently, is the Board of Aldermen in a legal position that if we had to make decisions on the same decisions that P&Z would be making at that point, would we be able to make those decisions without interference or conflict?
By state law, the Board of Aldermen can make themselves the planning and commission. You currently serve as the Board of Adjustments. That is not my recommendation.
Right.
No, I think the optics on that would be garbage.
It is terrible. You need.
And I don't have an interest in doing that. I think we need to do what's required statutorily, and let's get these folks in place on this commission. And
But you do have that authority. If you can't name somebody and we start getting things backed up, we would have to pass an ordinance. It happens fairly quickly, but we just need to call a friend.
I think the folks, the guys on this board, they know enough people that I think that we can get some good individuals on this commission. Anything else?
No further questions, Mayor.
Mr. Del Rosa, Ms. Turnbow, give me 1 second. I'm not done. I know you want to talk, and I have you right here. You're next on my thing here. Do you have anything else?
No, sir.
Ms. Pence?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, public comments. Ms. Turnbow, come on.
I'm Bev Turnbow, and I live at 349 College Hill Drive in Salado. I'm changing my remarks because I had no clue what this was about. We have had vacancies for 9 months, up to 9 months, on the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then Commissioner, the first one to resign was Commissioner Cunningham 9 months ago. Commissioner Alfred resigned 6 months ago, and Commissioner McClure 3 months ago. And Robert Smith has been an alternate for 22 months with no action taken by the BOA to appoint him to a regular seat on the commission. So projects do get delayed when the commission is unable to meet because of a lack of quorum. Before this, when we had vacancies on the Planning and Zoning Commission, an announcement was put on the village's website, and any qualified resident could submit an application to the village on that website. I think that in addition to that, in this day and age with the communication, it also needs to be put that the positions are being considered on a Facebook page as well as the Village Voice. We advertise for other positions within the village, and I think this is such an important one that we need to advertise for that too. I do not think any amendments to Section 2.2 of the zoning ordinances are warranted. The administration proffered the draft ordinance, which would amend Section 2.2.
Ms. Turnbow, that's not the agenda item, and we're not going to talk about it. That's not the agenda item, and we're not going to talk about that.
What I'm going for, though, is that part of that is that the aldermen would each appoint a person for the commission. I do not think this is a good idea. I think it's arbitrary, it's undemocratic, and I would just urge you to continue with getting people to apply and try to expand your network. Word of mouth is just not going to hit it. People need to know about it. There's a lot of competent people out there, including Mr. Price and others who is on the Planning Commission for the city of yeah, thank you. I was going to say McKinney. Sorry about that. The other thing that I think is very, very important to this is that Salado is facing critical issues right now of growth, infrastructure issues, economic struggles, environmental concerns, and traffic congestion, while at the same time you're trying to preserve the character of our quaint village. It's not an easy task you all have. We need individuals to serve on the commission with knowledge in related fields such as land use planning, real estate, development, engineering, public administration, and our fiscal experience. I just hope you will continue to give qualified individuals a chance to apply for this and give a broader notice to the community that these positions are being offered. And I pray that the one thing that I've always felt that the commission can do for you is that it can be a resourceful ally and a support as you face these challenges in the days ahead. And so I just ask you to consider keeping this a democratic process and to ensure that the commission is an independent body, statutorily authorized by the state of Texas, and it is independent of this group. It serves as an advisory board to this group. The agendas for the commission should be the commission's agendas and not the village's, and not managed by the village administrator. And I think that all of those changes were in this proposed ordinance. I ask that you really consider not approving any of that proposed ordinance. Thank you for your time and attention. I know it's late, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Just to clarify, you did bring up some very good points, and Ms. Pence touched on that, and she has put it on social media. As far as the democratic process, not one individual has the authority to put anybody in place. This board as a whole has to vote on, let's say, Mr. Lassiter's nomination. So that is a democratic process. It's not. Come back to the podium.
A democratic process is one where any qualified individual can apply without having the support of an alderman.
It still has to be approved by the Board of Aldermen.
It has to be approved by the Board of Aldermen, but
process.
Still, that one individual is brought by each one of you, rather than 25 individuals in the village who apply on their own because they're interested. Having you appoint a person is taking control of the process and of the, I think, trying to control the administration. I really think it is wrong for the alderman to, you approve anybody. You have that right. That's your responsibility. Mm-hmm. So all of these positions can be advertised, and you all choose the ones that are best, but not have them be funneled solely through an individual alderman. That's where I think it becomes more undemocratic, Mayor. I hope that makes sense.
It does, and my response to that is you got on the board by doing the same thing that you're saying for us not to do. We had one person, and I'm not going to argue this, but one person, all that funneled through there. We know how that happened, so we're not going to talk about that.
Let me tell you how I got on the board.
I know I was there. Thank you.
Excuse me. I would like to reply to your point. I applied for the position not because I was asked by anyone on the administration. I applied for the position, in fact, through Mr. Lassiter telling me that it was open and that I ought to consider it. Mm-hmm. No one else told me to even consider that job. And I applied and I got it because of my experience and my broad experience in the federal government, overseeing $800 million and doing a lot in public administration and fiscal management. Mm-hmm. That's why I got the job.
I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that you're qualified to do that. I'm saying that you applied, and one individual on this board is the one that handpicked that and told the rest of them how to vote.
Well, I'm sorry. I can't speak for that one person.
I can. I was there.
I can only speak from my experience and what I did to apply for the job, which was through the village's website.
Yes, ma'am.
With an open application out there.
I'm aware.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm sorry. I've appeared before the Planning and Zoning Commission to build 5 different houses. Every time I got held up by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Every time.
Hold on, Mr. Boynton. The agenda item is to discuss nominating and appointing individuals. We're not. This is not
okay. But let's get to that.
Yeah.
We've had people on those boards in the past and still today that want to drive what goes on for somebody's private property. We haven't gone out and included folks. You know, we keep having people get off the board. I've had 2 different board members tell me they got off because they were tired of people trying to ramrod something down somebody else's throat. The Planning and Zoning Commission looks at what somebody's wanting to do. If it's a variation from what's already a zoned deal and you got to get an amendment to the zoning law, you go before them. But quite often, these folks have gone into this going overboard about telling everybody how they got to build this, do that.
Yeah,
That's not worked well.
I know, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not getting into the weeds on, and I hate to do that to you, but I did it to somebody else, and I have to do it to you too.
That's
We're going to
fine.
talk about this agenda item, and that's it.
Okay, so the agenda item is we need more members.
Correct.
We're not going to get more members if we have people on there that tend to be overbearing and drive others away.
Right. I have all the faith in this board that they will be fair and equitable across the board.
I'm not doubting that. I just wanted to reinforce what I think has been a flaw. They've been overboard for years.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, Mr. Del Rosa, anything else to add?
No, sir.
Any more questions from the board?
No, Mayor.
No. Okay. All right, I'll open the floor for motion. Or I guess we're not going to take,
No action.
what direction we want to go for Manny, or I guess in this Pence is just
Yeah, don't table it, just take no action. I mean,
yeah.
we're just
With
going
the
to be
direction
seeking out
to-
applicants.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Item I, discussion of possible action on approving submission of payment to the Tax Appraisal District of Bell County for the rollback tax refunds in the amount of $468,033.30. Mr. Del Rosa, this is more of a formality.
It's a
We
formality.
really don't have a choice.
I'm requesting authorization to deliver the check.
Yeah. The check's already been printed. I
It's
saw
been
it this
cut,
morning.
You signed it, so.
Yeah.
But it is still in our possession.
Yeah. Alderman Sandor, you have any questions? Mr. Lassiter? Mayor Pro Tem Hurst?
No questions.
Mr. Dunch?
No question.
No questions,
All right.
Mayor.
Any public comments? None? Open the floor for motion.
Make a motion to approve the submission of a payment to the Tax Appraisal District of Bell County for the amount of $468,033.30.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Hurst to approve as presented. Seconded by Alderman Sandor. Any further discussion? Question called by Alderman McDonald. All in favor of approving item I as presented, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? That carries 5-0. Mr. De La Rosa. J, discussion of possible acceptance of financial reports ending April 30, 2024.
Okay, you're gonna have, this is a little bit behind already, but you're gonna, at the next meeting, you're gonna have the balance summary ending in the May. So, the very first page, since I started, I've had our accountant provide us a summary, kind of a snapshot for you, to summarize everything that's in these balance summaries. It's an opportunity for you to ask questions, but again, I think when I first came, it used to be in the consent. It went off the consent, and now we discuss them and present them to you. The mayor signs checks. Every check has some type of authorization, an invoice. It's signed either by me or a department head, and if he doesn't understand what it is, he poses those questions. What am I signing? So, it's been very different working with him since my start, but it is, there's a checks and balance with him as these checks are cut. Alderman Sandor asked me how much I can approve. I can generally approve within your budgeted amount, which is up to $25,000. I'm very historically bringing you a lot of items because it's for me to be able to communicate how we're spending those funds and what's come up that's maybe out of the ordinary. Okay, so I used to see a lot of information on the wastewater. I don't see as much because we've gotten into a routine and we are now operating in the block. We're running about the 5th month in the block. If you recall some of you will recall that we closed out last year with a $60,000 wastewater deficit that you make it up from the general fund. We're actually $60,000 in the black. so far this year, and if we pay the repairs at the Drake's Landing lift station and some other maintenance that we need to do, we're down to about 36,000 still in the bond. So again, general fund, enterprise fund. If you need more time to look at it, if you've got any very specific questions, I'll be happy to attempt to answer them.
And just to reiterate Mr. Del Rosa's point, when we sit down and we look at these checks, it's a process. I don't just go through and blindly find those. I look at the invoices that are attached to them. If it's very clear, we can sign it, but then I'll have a stack set to the side, like, hey, we're going to talk about this, and I'll go line by line and say if it's MRB or if it's Bickerstaff, our attorneys, to say, well, this says it's for this project. Can we be reimbursed by this builder, developer, whatever the case is, in order to do that? And we have those conversations, and then we move forward with that. So that's kind of how that process works. Do you have any questions, Mr. Randall? Oh, the Lassiter, a question?
Yes, I'd like to address that.
I don't specifically have any questions tonight, but what I would like to ask for, Mayor, with your consideration, is 60% of this board has been here less than a month, and there's a voluminous amount of financial data, and I think it would be very helpful to at least the three of us if we could set up a workshop where we could ask questions and gain familiarity with our budgets for each of these entities we have in here, and just ask some questions so we can come up to speed on not only our shortfalls that we're having to deal with now, but the operating costs that we have on a normal basis. I just think that's the right thing to do, and I would really appreciate it. And as I said, I don't have any specific questions tonight, but if the existing alderman and or yourself didn't feel any need to be there, that's fine. It's an educational request, basically, so that we can sharpen our skills and with the intent of understanding and helping this process that we find ourselves in and moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
Mayor, what's your recommendation on that?
Mayor, you might recall that our city accountant never met with any elected official prior to me. And Alderman Lassiter, on any given day, she generally, I think, doesn't work the evening. She's our accountant. We pay on a fee basis, hours, that she works, but I've actually had her come in with me sitting next. Actually, I have the mayor sitting next to her. So she walks them. So not only are you hearing it from me, you're hearing it from the person that actually takes care of our books. It's that checks and balance system that I believe in. In other words, I'm not going to share our accountant with you. So I can have two members at any time meet with me and our accountants, and we'll set aside about an hour and a half. And you pose your questions, and she'll walk you right through it, which is what she does with the mayor.
Seems to me that it'd be more efficient with three of us to do it in a workshop session so that it's a one-time expense for the accountant to come out and answer questions.
And three elected officials requires the Texas Open Meetings Act, and we'd have to invite the public.
And it would be.
Yeah.
I'm asking for it to be an official meeting, a workshop official meeting, so that we could sit down and ask questions. I'm not asking questions about the part that's under investigation at this point, although we will get to that at some point here, and hopefully in the not too distant future, and have some updates on it, because I do believe that the citizens of this community are owed some answers and understanding on that.
Yeah.
But for right now, with the budget crunch we have and looking very shortly in the near term at a new budget for 2025, 2026, I think it's imperative for us to know. One, I do thank you for taking it off the consent agenda and make it in a real item. That's a step in the right direction. The next one is for 3 of the 5 aldermen to know a little bit more about this process. And I think it's far more efficient, and it's totally open, not trying to hide anything. I don't want it to be a he said, they said. It's like, we're all together. She can be here, she cannot be. I'd prefer her to be here. I know we can afford an hour or two of her time. That's not a question. So that's where I am on it. I'd like to have the parties here, and I'd like to hear that information. Whatever questions I have, I don't have all my questions, but it's late, and there's too many questions to ask. And as I said, it's supposed to be an educational process, and that's what I would like it to be. Well, have anything to add to that myself?
Well, I would certainly echo Alderman Lassiter's approach to this, because I think it would really be good to have it in a workshop that is open to the public, because I think there's a lot of questions. I mean, they can have their open time to come up and speak, but then it is a kind of a closed session that they'll just observe. Maybe that will give the public a better understanding of this real dire situation we're in. So I think it would help drive home some things, not only for us coming into this, but also for the general public as well.
Special call meetings, which is what you're asking for, requires 4 members to be present. We would have to take minutes or record it. Okay, and minutes generate, right? So now you're not only taking up, you spend a lot of time with me, but then we're now taking other employees to be here for these kind of things. You cannot, if a quorum, you can have a walking quorum with 2. Certainly 3 is a simple majority, and you can have a meeting with 3 aldermen and the mayor at a regular meeting. But a special call meeting, which is what you're asking for, to open it to the public, is a minimum of 4 aldermen. Remember, we had this discussion about recently, I can't recall, Mayor, the town hall meeting. Technically, it was the mayor's town hall meetings, which is why we send a message. The rest of the aldermen are not invited. They can only meet with the mayor, right? So if not, we did not have the 4th person, and that would have created problems. So you just got to tell me exactly what you want, but you get to decide collectively. Individually, I can meet with any person any one time. I can meet with 2, to answer questions. But if the 2 of you start talking policies, then it's a walking quorum, and I caution you that will get you in trouble faster than anything.
I'm not asking for a walking forum. I'm asking for a meeting. You call it whatever meeting you want to call it. Whether all of us are invited or 3 show up or all 6 of us show up. I want some transparency on the financial statements, and I want to ask some questions about them. Now, how we go about doing that in a public forum is what I'd like to know, because that's what I want.
Yes, sir. And you can have that at the budget workshops. And that's open to the public.
We do have those.
Treat them as public workshops. So you can
Is
have
that
as many
not,
as you want.
is that not what I just asked for, was a workshop a few minutes ago?
Well, the difference is you're asking for a workshop to get acclimated with these financials. We are in the very near future going to start having some workshops on the upcoming budget.
Yes, yes.
So that we're
That's
going
true.
to do. But if you're asking for an additional workshop to discuss our monthly financial reports, what Mr. Del Rosa is trying to explain is that in order to do that, that is a special called Board of Aldermen, and it's open to the public. But if you don't have 4 people here for that, you can't even have the conversation. Everybody has to leave and go home. You can't talk about it.
Well, that's fine. If 4 of these aldermen don't want to be here for that, then that speaks for itself. If they don't want to show up, that's fine. But I'm talking about the 24, 25 right now. I'm not. It will help.
Yeah.
Very much help and set the cornerstone for understanding 2026. Will make it a lot easier for us to work through that together.
Yeah,
so there's benefit to that.
But I mean, you're asking for us right now with not a bunch of numbers on here, which I've spent a lot of time looking at this, to approve this April, and my answer is going to be no until I really understand.
And we table it.
So,
or we take no action.
Yeah, it doesn't change the fact of what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. But
But, and I understand what the request is, but he's trying to explain is that there are statutory requirements that if we're gonna do a workshop, there's certain things that we have to do to meet those parameters. And I think Manny's way around that is to say, he's happy to meet with, like, if you wanna sit down and have a conversation with the accountant here during the day or whatever, without having, a quorum or a special call meeting, then we get Christie in the room. I know that Thursday she comes and drops off checks. I met with her today, met with her last Thursday, and we went through the financials to do the amendment to the current budget. So
if
we need to, let's try to figure out how we can do that without getting ourselves in a crunch. So there's some value in what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you, Mr. Lasser. I really am not, or Mr. Dunch. I'm just trying to navigate through how that looks, because that takes, to his point, another meeting and paying staff and Mr. Jacob for it to go on YouTube and all those things. There are costs associated with all that.
I respect that, but I also think there was a pretty strong statement made by the voters of the city of Salado that the rollback had a lot of ramifications, and I think part of it was a lack of trust, not pointing fingers. I'm just saying a lack of trust in moving forward without knowing what we spent in the past, and that's what I'd like to understand. And I think that's fair, and that's not something that is illegal or disrespectful to the process, to the ongoing investigation. I just don't see where for these aldermen, at least myself, I would hope that 4 aldermen would be willing to show up for that, but maybe not. And if that's the case, well then we'll go another direction with it. But I do think we need to cover that and move on after we've done it and get to work on our other issues too, because they're right in front of us. All of it's right in front of us. But my point is, if you don't understand your financing, it won't help me in accounting. It won't help me in the past, and it's not going to help me much in the future. So to me, it starts there, and I believe in transparency 100%.
I agree. No disagreement there at all.
Okay. Thank you for my time. I appreciate that.
No other comments? No, I'm good.
Mr. McDonald?
No, Mayor, nothing to say. Thank you.
All right. Any public comments on this? Okay, I'll open the floor for a motion. No, we're making a motion on this. I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion that we accept the financial reports ending April 30, 2024. No, I'm going to amend that. Let's take, I won't take any action on this. I want these guys to have a comfort level that there is some transparency, and we're going to have those conversations and try to help them understand as much as we can. And whatever that looks like. So
I suggest you table it for the next meeting when we also present the May financials, which is at the next meeting, the 19th of June.
Yeah. Okay. You okay with that? All right. So next item, adjournment. So moved. 10:12.